In the Blackstone-Millville Regional School Committee meeting for Wednesday, May 30th. If we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with introduction of members.
Bethany Dunton, Blackstone resident.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Erin Vanaco, Millville.
Jack Keefe, Blackstone.
Sarah Williams, Blackstone.
One Cobb, Business Manager.
Alan Himmelberger, Superintendent.
Okay, and it looks like we just have one order of business to take care of, which is a field trip request.
The 8th grade who's not going to DC.
For the 8th grade class members not attending the DC trip. Did everyone see this?
Blackstone Valley.
No.
Do you want to see it?
Sure.
So,
I'll just look for a motion to approve the 8th grade field trip.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Tara and seconded by Bethany. Any discussion? For the field trip against it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry.
And then we'll be moving on to recertify our FY19 budget based on the results from the Blackstone town meeting last night. We are going to adopt a new, a lower number and recertify our budget to $22,623,707, which is gravely 1.6 million less than we originally certified. Does everyone have the motions in front of them?
it's in the back page on the packet.
The back page on the packet, so if we want to just start and move around the table to recertify. Bethany, will you do the first one, please?
Sure. We move to adopt a gross operating budget for the 2018-2019 school year in the amount of $22,623,707.
Okay, motion made by Bethany. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tammy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Bethany.
Move to apply the following reimbursements to reduce said gross operating budget for the 2018-2019 year. Chapter 70, $10,915,189. Regional Transportation, $472,648. School Choice / Charter Offset, negative $305,000. Charter School Offset, negative $3,000. Above reimbursements total $11,079,837. The total net operating budget for 2018-2019 is $11,543,871.
Okay, motion made by Tammy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. Any discussion? All those in favor? Signal
Aye.
by aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Unanimous.
I move to assess the amount of $8,562,533 to the town of Blackstone to be applied to the operating budget for the 2018-2019 year, which includes $6,317,741 for the minimum contribution, $1,347,481 in exclusionary costs, and $897,311 in supplemental investments.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Tara and second by Jack. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Move to assess the amount of $2,919,338 to the town of Millville to be applied to the operating budget for the 2018-19 year, which includes $2,074,258 for the minimum contribution, $507,276 in exclusionary costs, and $337,804 in supplemental investments.
Okay, motion made by Jack. Is there a second? Thank you, Bethany. Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Move to apply the following amounts to the gross operating budget for the year 2018-2019. Medicaid, $60,000. Interest, $2,000, for a total of $62,000.
Okay, motion made by Sarah. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tammy. Sorry. And any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Sarah, do you want to take the next one? Sure. Thank you.
Move to adopt a capital and interest budget in the amount of $426,379 to be assessed solely to the town of Blackstone, which includes $152,388 for the FWH Middle School, $98,047 for the BMR High School sewer connection, and $175,944 for the roof projects.
Okay,
Second.
Motion made by Sarah, second by Bethany. Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. And does anyone want to volunteer for the last one?
Move to adopt capital and interest budget in the amount of $179,135 to be assessed solely to the town of Millville, which includes $57,368 for the FWH Middle School, $36,911 for the high school sewer connection, and $84,856 for the roof projects.
Thank you. Motion made by Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So essentially, we just recertified our budget, and we need to send it back to the town of Millville based on the budget they approved for us at their town meeting. It looks like we're asking them for about another $39,000. The number was somewhere in between 36 and 39. That came about because Blackstone, FinCom did include an additional $99,000 in change last night in their number to us, and then the 20% match, 27% match for Millville brings that up. And again, I will add that neither town has to look at the cuts that we have to in front of us tonight. So every dollar is going to help us be able to swim through next year, or skim through next year. So we have in front of us recommendations for reductions to meet this newly certified budget. And I will mention this is going to be delivered to Millville tomorrow, correct, Alan?
Yes,
We hand delivering?
first thing in the morning.
Okay, thank you. So I think first, before we start going through our lines, we're going to have a public forum, just to let anyone that might, in the past week, watched our meeting last week or heard discussion, have questions, you're more than welcome to come up and address us. Then we are going to get into our lines, and I think we're going to make some decisions tonight, so that's our plan of action for this meeting. If you could just introduce yourself and
Where I'm from.
where you're from.
Esther Cody, 44 Summer Street, Blackstone, and a first grade teacher. We just recertified the budget with $1.5 million worth of cuts. Correct. My question is, with the additional $139,000 from Blackstone and Millville, if they approve, we need to make those cuts from the number that we're looking at right now. So we just recertified with 1.515321 in cuts.
Correct.
So if we do not get the additional $139,000, we have to cut
We
an
would.
additional.
We would.
Okay, so the certified budget is without that money.
No, it includes it.
It includes it.
No, the newly certified budget
includes the
It does not include $139,000 in cuts.
So my question
So
is,
we
we
are-
would have to cut an additional $139,000
If that
from
money
our
is not
budget.
approved by the Millville Board of Selectmen at a town meeting?
Right.
Yes.
And what is the timeline for that?
I believe that's why we wanted to move and do it this evening. Once we get it to them tomorrow, a timeline starts for them. They have a choice. They have a certain amount of days, I believe it's 10 days, to make a decision on whether they're going to post for a town meeting,
Okay.
to ask the voters to come out and vote for that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do believe we're moving forward as a committee. Very hopeful that that will not become a gap. Any other public? Go ahead.
I'm asking.
You can come right up to the microphone, though.
Just asking permission first.
You do have to come up here for the microphone. Sure.
Permission.
Of course.
I'm sorry.
Just your name and where you're from.
Yeah, my name is Joe Frazier. Is that on?
It only goes to the TV, so
good.
you won't hear it in here.
Joe Frazier, father of Kylie Frazier, 28A Lincoln Street, Millville, Mass. For the sake of all questions I ask to this committee indefinitely, I'm asking in the context of John Q., parent. Nothing to do with me. I just want to make that clear. My basic question is this. You have been asking folks to call you with suggestions. That process of suggestions, when does that end, or does it end, or does that keep going? Because it's pretty fluid now, the situation with the budget. You guys are trying to figure out cuts.
It is very fluid, but we do have some deadlines that we have to meet in regards to staffing. And so those, unfortunately, our numbers go deeper than that. So, I would think that people would have reached out to us by now if they had any fixes or suggestions or won the lottery and wanted to share. But
Okay, yeah, the lottery one would probably work best, right? In any event, the only reason why I was asking was that you guys were asking these things, and myself as a parent wasn't sure of what a parent could bring to the table, since you guys know what the budget is. And basically, you're telling me now, which I think is a good thing, is that this process here is kind of coming to an end.
well, it is for this year, but guess what? We have to do this again in the fall.
Well, no, we'll
And
keep
every
doing it.
year
I
we
mean, we'll
have to
keep coming,
create
but
a
I'm just
budget.
saying, I just want to understand the importance and how to help is what I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Did you want to?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, what Mrs. Vanaco just said. The state, if you want to know what you all can do, it is to contact everybody that you know working at the state level.
Okay.
Because that's where a large sum of money that's allocated or not resides. And we have been treated, along with most of the other regional school districts, very unfairly by the state. And so that activism with state legislators, with the governor's office, with even if you wanted to jump that and go to our congressmen and senators, because public education in this country, you can't afford it on the backs of towns' property taxes. It's just not going to happen. And the deficit that we face this year, I expect that it's going to be at least as large next year. The problem that we all are facing as concerned citizens, as concerned staff, as concerned parents, is by continuing to migrate our students out of the district, we end up with less critical mass. And so it becomes which comes first. So we need to maintain and keep our students here and to be able to build the programs. And so that's what is at stake. You're going to have the same discussion in July. Once the budget is set, you're going to have the same discussion. We started this process last October, and we had meetings in November, December, and January. And so I think that's the piece that we have to keep looking at for FY20.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, am I running over time? Just one more thing.
Almost.
No, I'm going to get it.
We are
yeah.
going to have more public
Okay,
sessions.
so in any event, even though that you guys are asking for legislators and so on and so forth in this area, I think it behooves anybody to be doing this all over the state, given what you're saying. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm,
And that is happening.
okay,
That
and
is
I'm trying to
happening.
do it too myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyone else for public forum? Okay. So I just want to point out in our packet, the very first page is reduction by cost center. And for me personally, something that stuck out was the very first line, the administration line. Are these public?
Yeah.
Do we have copies?
I do have some copies.
Okay. Just
I didn't make enough for everybody, but I do have some. let me
So
hand those
do
out.
you or Wen want to
Sure.
give us a brief summary of where we came to?
So we are very fortunate, just a quick overview, that we have Wen Cobb, who has been in charge of running this current year's budget and has done a tremendous amount of work in analyzing the data for this FY19 budget. So the chair and vice chair both asked to look at this by cost center, and these are the Department of Ed's function codes and cost centers. So on the smaller page in the front, you're going to see it broken down, the reductions and where they fall. So keeping in mind that 75%, 3/4 of our school budget is salary and benefits. About 7% is transportation. Running our buildings is about 5%, and special ed costs 8%. That's 95% of our budget is basically fixed. And so we don't have a whole lot of other things to cut. And so as you can see here, obviously, the bulk of that $1.515321 million gap in the budget that the committee just recertified, based upon what the original adopted budget was, falls under salaries and instructional services. The fixed charges, a big chunk of that was on the insurance savings that the memorandum of agreement saved the district. Again, much of this is fixed and mandated by law. The law says we must transport and have room on our buses for every student, and yet the state hasn't funded that Chapter 71 agreement at 100% in many, many years. So, and with the other factor that is working, again, in the perfect storm, is that we are charged with educating everybody. And I can see a lot of the teachers that are present nodding, because we take all students, regardless of how much they know, what language they speak, what disability they may have. We take all of them and do a darn fine job offering a top quality education to all of our students. But we have needier and needier students that require more interventions and more services. And so the cost to provide translation services to all of our English language learners, that's mandated by the state and by the federal government. But there is no money that follows that. To meet students' therapeutic needs is mandated by law, yet the federal government has not funded that law more than 22% of what it was originally mandated to do when that law was written. It was supposed to be funded at 40% across the country. So we have laws made and promises not kept that are putting us where we are today. Take the laws off the books. If you don't want to fund regional transportation, take it off the books. If you can't fund special education, then don't handicap, no pun intended, us to try and meet that obligation. So this is the challenge, and I said it last night at the Blackstone Town Meeting. This is the challenge. We are coming to a Waterloo moment where the state and federal government can no longer turn away from the fiscal reality. And that may be what I'm doing July 1st, just so you know. The new Senate president, who's very sharp, Karen Spilka, is a good friend of mine. Well, will be, maybe not after July 1st. But there's a lot of room for improvement in funding not only public education, but regional education. And our 58 academic regionals are all looking at per pupil costs that are so far below the state average. It is amazing that we do all that we do. And most of you are out there in the audience doing that. And I'm talking about teachers and staff. So that's the breakdown in terms of so far by cost center. Those are certainly just Department of Ed codes, and that's what Mrs. Vanaco and Mrs. Reggio had asked us to do, is to break it down so we can see by cost center how we can allocate basically almost 7% of our budget. There's no other district in the state that's cutting 7% of their school budget. No other public district that's doing that. So, again, I would put this out to everyone watching at home and those that are here. Feel free to call us. We're happy to take you through the finer points of school finance and budgeting. When is a tremendous resource. And I'm happy, and I've made that offer every year. In my first 2 years, a lot of people took me up on that. But we just don't have the resources, we don't have the offsets this year that we've had in prior years. And coupled with more expenditures and less resources and revenues from our towns, it's putting us in a very, very uncomfortable predicament.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks.
Oh, now I'll hand it over to Jane.
Thank you, Erin. I apologize for my tardiness. Never did figure out why, but I did leave early to try to get here early. But you didn't come to hear about that. You came to hear about our budget and to hear us talk about our budget. And so we will do that probably starting by the function code, reduction by function code page that everybody has in front of them. So it's
the bigger pages.
I don't know. It says reduction by function code.
Yep.
And first is school committee, and it looks at a $2,000 reduction there. Specifically, what is that? Do we know?
Building and supplies. The SC 2,000.
1,000 is supplies school committee, and the other 1,000 is scholarship fund.
We had all talked about our stipends.
Yep.
Do we want to follow through on that conversation?
I will. I would like to give up my stipend.
Completely?
I am willing to give up mine completely, yes. I'm sorry. So we're just talking about talking about our stipends. We get a $1,500 stipend a year, and so we have talked about this before, and that's what we're talking about. So I am willing to give up my stipend for this upcoming school year budget.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? We talked about it last time.
Are you making a motion?
Are we discussing?
Let's discuss.
I mean, again, I don't want to put anybody else. I mean, we have talked about it a couple times, but
It's a $12,300 line item.
Do we want to earmark where that's going instead of just tossing it into like another function? We want to make a list of how much money we put aside tonight.
You can keep a running
That's a good
total.
idea, and then you can
See
see
where it
if you want
goes.
to apply it
Yeah,
to something else.
Yeah.
So what did you say that was, Alan?
12,300 is this total stipended line.
Okay, it's on the list.
Sure,
It's
if
the
I know.
beginning of the list.
I'm not sure that, I would,
Yeah, we don't- yeah, I was
this is
gonna
clearly a group consensus, and I know that, as I mentioned at our last meeting, some of us weren't even aware that we did receive a stipend when we first ran for a position. Having been on the committee for over 4 years, I know that I personally, it helps. It helps everybody in life, and it's, most of it I end up putting back towards things I do for the schools and with the schools, and
It doesn't average out to much. If you divide that by the time we put into the superintendent search, it's like pennies, so we already do it for free. We really do.
I mean, I probably feel mine a little bit more than
You're a
most
college
people here,
student.
seeing as how my income fluctuates based on the time of year and stuff like that. So it would definitely hurt a lot more to lose it than it might for you guys, but I understand.
do we have to do it unanimously? I mean, again, I don't,
Could we do a percentage?
we're certainly
Or
in a
I'm
different
wondering, I mean,
position
we
in
have
life.
3 installments, and maybe we give back $1,000 each as opposed to the 1,500,
And I think that's what we got to last time.
or maybe, I don't know.
Again, I would just want to be able to make a list of, and know where it's going.
Yeah,
As opposed to just giving it back.
No, I get that. I am not, but if we're not willing to give it back, it doesn't matter where.
Do we want to do two?
It is an awkward, I will speak, it's an awkward position to be in. We know that towns have given up stipends. We know that people have done that as a part of cost saving, and so it's awkward to sit here and say, you know, $1,500 really helps me, but $1,500 really helps me. So it's a hard position to be in, and I know that somebody's job really helps them too. And so if it's balancing somebody's job and balancing $1,500 to my family, I'll support somebody's job.
How do we want to word this?
I would give mine back 10 times and pay you back for the last 6 years. But it doesn't fix this. And I believe there's other money in here that we need to talk about. When? I would like to know why the Unit C increases are calculated at 3.5% instead of 3% on our ledger by function.
What page are you on, Aaron?
It's every page.
Oh, any Unit C?
Any Unit C increase is calculated at 3.5%. And from the ones I could find, it's about $10,000. And I lost a lot of hours trying to find them and calculate them myself. I'm sure I'm missing some hours of my life that I'll never get back, but I did it.
Yep.
So, in addition to the 3%, I already considered the steps.
For Unit
and,
C?
Yes. Yes. Unit C has 5 steps. And then some has longevities if they reach certain years.
The longevities are in here on separate lines. And then with that question, I would like to know if there's any other money in here that we don't understand or don't know what it's for or why it's calculated to this. Because when we are nickel and diming the total and taking away stipends for $153 to music or school committee stipends for the countless hours that are here, I want to make sure that every dollar being spent is in the right line.
I agree with you.
On page 138, it says sick leave, early retirement incentive, $90,000. What is that?
So when
No, you don't have this.
So when retirees leave the district, or they have buybacks, sick leave incentive, and the early retirement incentive.
So on top of the money we offer them at $7,500.
So we have sick leave incentive, which is 3 years, each year $1,500, and the buyback is. Oh, okay. Sorry. So the sick leave is 3 years, $1,500 a year incentive, and early retirement incentive is $7,500 when they take the incentive. And when retirees leave the district, we do have to pay their buyback times.
So is this a calculated number based on the 3 professional staff that are leaving?
There are more. There are more. That's everybody. All the retirees and all the employees that who takes the sick leave incentive.
We have 3 retirees this year, correct?
No, more.
You have 3 that took advantage of early.
So how many total are retiring? 6 total?
6 total.
So then, I'm sorry, so the 19.5 is the 3
That's
early?
The 3.
Okay,
Early retirement incentive.
right.
And then you have others that are already in year 1 or 2 of their 3-year sick time buyback.
Okay.
So my question is can these increase lines be moved down to 3%?
So what I did is, so Monique is our payroll specialist, and she ran the whole salary projection in one method, and I ran it in another method. I ran it by person, she ran by percentage and the longevity and the step up. So we compare our numbers, and this is the whole district percentage we use for the increase. But I agree with you, we should be careful with every dollar. So I'll go back and check.
Thank you.
So you'll adjust them specifically per employee?
Excuse me?
When you go back and check, like they'll be specific, you won't just use a
just look at
3.5, you'll do specific to each?
I'll look at Monique's spreadsheet and my spreadsheet and see if there's any dollars we can find.
Well, because the Unit A increases are already calculated into their line.
Yes.
So why isn't Unit C done that way?
Because Unit C, so when they have their PDP points, they have so many different rates. So I forgot how many, like 30 cents per hour added to their current rate. So it's not like a salary schedule as Unit A. Unit C has so many kind of rates that it's just a lot of work to calculate person by person.
So, I mean, for me personally, before we make itemized changes on line items like that, that we need to make sure all of our dollars are accounted for.
So we're going to go back to 1110. It just happened to be the first one on the list that Jane started with, so. Because that's how it was.
I was on 11, and now I'm on 1210, the superintendent's office, where we took out $6,475. And I'm just checking a.
I know 4,800 of that amount was the CopSync software that we were looking to adopt. There are some issues with that particular rollout, so we just took that out.
What was that supposed to do? What does that software do?
It's the ability to alert public safety officials instantaneously.
Is that total number?
It's 48 out of the 6475. I'm not sure what else is.
2000 superintendent's office supplies, and we renewed our School Spring, which is our hiring website, at $325 higher than what we estimated.
Anybody have any questions about that line?
Do the office staff within that suite of offices fall under this line, or are they somewhere else?
So they're under 1,000, which I was just at. So the three items listed here at 1450, 1210, and 1110 equal the 13,975 on our first page.
Correct.
So yes, they fall somewhere in the first 1,000.
Oh, I see.
See how it works?
Yes.
So district-wide info management and technology, the 5,500 also, and then those three will equal the administration line.
13,975. Correct.
So the function codes provide the detail to the original overview of the cost center.
So anything that starts with 1,000 is in the first one, 2,000 is in the second one.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay? And it should follow the big, it should
And
follow
then
the
you can
big.
find it in here.
Yeah, it should.
It looks like they might be 1110. No, that's school committee.
Who might be 11,
21. Sorry, wrong one.
District info management and technology.
Some of this is just a different renewal rate we got for the softwares and website service. So Mr. Boson and I examined every line, and we found some monies, some give back and some take out of the budget. And we decided we want to reduce 6 printers throughout the district, so we can save $5,000 in print cartridges.
So does anybody have any questions on any of the 1,000, in any of the 1,000 sections?
I would just like to see that number higher based on looking at this whole list. I know in the summary Alan gave us a week ago that he feels the cut to administration came with the loss of our assistant superintendent last year's budget. But to be fair, with the way the numbers look on this paper, we have to find something else. Not to micromanage, I think we should make it a number, not pinpointing a certain position. I think we need to say it needs to be $50,000 on administration and let those decisions be made by the people that can make them. And that's just a rounded number. It could be higher or lower, or 75. We frankly don't have an administrator to cut. It's more of what falls in those function codes that can equal that number.
Well, we've pretty
It's
much
office staff.
eliminated
Yeah.
what falls in those function codes other than positions.
Yeah.
There isn't much else in those function codes other than our legal attorneys and
Our new technician's not in there, right? The new tech that was requested?
It is.
The new?
Yep.
Is in that line item?
New position is
Is
in
that
there.
on page 10?
Chromebook tech support for, it's on page 10. Chromebook tech support for for 400 Chromebooks. Yes, go ahead.
And that
Just
was the
wanna-
discussion that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if we get the 400 Chromebooks, pretty much this technician is necessary.
Yes.
The discussion, okay.
Is Sean coming?
No, he's away.
It's on vacation.
Go ahead.
Just a quick comment, and I know what Erin is trying to do. I just have to say that we have looked at these numbers line by line, and the leadership team and Wen and myself for a lot of hours over the last several months. And there's a lot of different ways to reduce budgets, but we've gotten to the $1.5 million with as minimal upheaval, certainly to personnel, by using the folks that have retired, by not filling where we feel we can get through the year to get to this number. There's just not. I mean, can we tweak, to Erin's point, 50,000 here and 25,000 there? Yes, we can. But we're at the $1.5 million that we need to be at now.
On paper, but it doesn't,
On
it's
paper,
not things that
right.
we have.
Right. But we've done it with thoughtful analysis by a lot of folks, and certainly we're here to listen to options and to other lines of thought. But I just wanted to let everyone know that it's been a lot of time with a lot of careful consideration for everything from the district operations to the quality of the education to the minimal disruption in people's lives and livelihoods. And with a cut this deep, there's no way around all of that. I'll be quiet.
I would be opposed to cutting any administrative services. I think that we have a new superintendent who is coming in, who has to operate essentially with only those support services, because we have no assistant superintendent. We initially may have no director of special education, so he'll have his technology person, he'll have his leadership team, and he'll have his administrative support, and they are the guts of the operation, if you will. And I you know, if there are tweaks that can be made there, if there are savings that can be made there, I have no doubt that he'll be able to figure those out, but he won't know how to hit the ground running if those people aren't there doing their jobs. That's just a gut.
So not to jump around, but do we want to talk about the Chromebook, since the Chromebook position is under that line item?
There's also a moving one of the tech positions from .7 to full-time. So maybe we hold off on that and just do one full-time position, and that will save us $10,000. That's on page 10. So we are adding tech support, but we're also saving.
But we need to decide how we're paying for the Chromebooks. So I did make a recommendation, and I had asked for some information on purchasing them outright instead of it being a $28,000 line item in our budget every year. I don't think that question has been answered, but I think it's up to the committee if we want to ask parents to provide those Chromebooks. I was hoping Sean was going to be here tonight to tell us, how it would work purchasing through us, because I know there's a discount available, obviously, because we were buying them in bulk and as a district, but that is something we would have to implement as a school committee.
Alan, I think, Alan, did you mention something to that point earlier?
So, yes.
Sorry.
So the issue around Chromebooks is twofold. One is that it's now a full state requirement that we must test all students on computer-based testing. The other is that from an equity issue, districts have run into everything from legal challenges by parents to ACLU, and I know that Mr. Bozan's on vacation, but relayed to a leadership team that it's simply not the best way to go in order to be able to control the quality of the testing and to be able to manage the software. So that particular cut is not in here, but I believe that in the best interest of the district and the students and the parents, we should provide them on these fairly attractive leases.
Well, I disagree with that, and I would actually even make a motion that we cut the $28,000 and the position of $40,000 for this year, since we're already looking at a year where we're not going to grow. We're making these tremendous cuts, and we have a new superintendent coming in that needs to assess the district. I don't think it's going to be a year of growth based on the cuts we have in front of us. So why are we going to implement something that we can't even afford to support? So my motion is to remove the leased Chromebooks for this year's budget at $28,000, along with the tech support position for $40,000, hopefully putting it in next year to start that initiative. And we tested on Chromebooks this year in this middle school. The principal already told us that they were brought in, the carts were brought in from other schools, and they already did it. So we will be able to meet that standard next year. It will not be fun, it will not be the best way, but it is a savings of $68,000 that we absolutely need in front of us. So that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tanya's got it.
Okay. And is there discussion? And I will allow Tanya to come forward. I'm not sure that was her message. Thank you.
Sixth grade was not tested on Chromebooks this year. We tested on paper. In order to just do 7 and 8, we had to bring in Chromebooks from the high school. And Mike, as I stated the last meeting, dismantled a lab that was no longer needed to help replace some of the 15-year-old computers that we have in the building. So the sixth grade was not tested. It was a paper-based test for them.
So not included in my motion are is an additional 2 carts to the district. It's 64 additional Chromebooks. That's at the rate of $5,000. That is not included in my motion. So we would have 2 additional carts available to us that would have to be strategically moved during MCAS time. Our high school kids are all one-to-one already, so if they need to test, they already have their device. And again, it worked this year, and we're going to have 2 extra carts.
Also not
in this budget.
Not included in your motion is moving that 1 tech position from .7 to a full-time.
It's keeping him there.
Yes, it's
keeping the .7 to
a full-time
employee. It's eliminating the 1 new full-time and the Chromebooks.
What page are the Chromebooks on, Erin?
68.
Thank you.
My concern is that several years ago, we asked for a technical plan, and we had a very long and well-thought-out plan that looked at a 3-year time plan. We have had technology and the growth of technology, including the use of Chromebooks as tools. They are not the end-all to be-all. They are not just a testing element, but they are an opportunity for us. We've had people talk about the use of Chromebooks as a way to cut down on substitutes. We've just had some really innovative ideas that support the educational growth of both the middle school and the high school. We have been committed to this. It is in our district improvement plans, and it is in our improvement plans for each of our schools. And at some point, we have to look at those. It's also in our own goals of our school district, in our policy manual that talks about our vision and our mission and our goals. I think stopping midstream and not letting the natural growth of technology and moving these children forward, I think they're going to be at disadvantage with potential numbers in the classroom. I think any tools that we can give them to aid their learning is helpful, and I understand again that it is a huge expense, but it potentially is much more costly down the road. So I would not support taking that out of the budget.
And I think we could encourage parents, we could encourage the bring your own device this coming year, hoping to implement this into our next budget cycle in the middle school setting, along with our carts and the 2 additionals. I don't know where they were slated for. But I also like to point out that we had a 3-year budget plan too, and we didn't follow that. We submitted a 7.5% increased budget, and it was supposed to be 3%. So,
I
following
was not here
following
at the
3-year
beginning
plans.
of the meeting. What did you all talk about in terms of community?
We did say they'd be able to interact if it's pertinent to our conversation.
Hi, Scott Hebert. We did fundraising for backstops for the baseball field, irrigation systems. Is there a way to do fundraising for Chromebooks?
I would think there could definitely be initiatives. It would just take someone putting that out there.
Just an idea.
And I do know
the irrigation system wasn't cheap, so no Chromebooks aren't cheap either.
No. Thank you.
Jane, I do know that some parents have expressed interest in spearheading such a thing.
I did see
just
that.
Putting that out there.
Joe, I know, and then Mike, I saw your hand, so I don't know who. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike Buckley, 48 Riley Avenue. I just had a technology question, and I'm sorry I'm not up to the speed, which is kind of funny. But where does it stand now as far as the 1-to-1?
Only in the high school.
Just the high school. So the implementation would be the middle school, all 3 years, all 3 grades. So is there an alternative to that? As far as I think BYOB is one, BYOD is probably a valid opportunity, as well as donors' choice, something on those funds. Also, is this an outright purchase or is it a lease?
Lease.
Lease. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Please.
My name is Melissa Leone. I'm from Blackstone. I am also a teacher in a regional school district in a nearby town. And I'm shocked that the class side hasn't been brought up yet, because we're so concerned about Chromebooks and things like this, but you have a class size of 30, first and second graders, and a Chromebook is not going to replace a teacher. I've taught with a class size of 28, and I see the repercussions of it. So I wish that more emphasis was being put on the children rather than, $10,000 here, $10,000 here. It should be put on teachers and children.
It's next. It's next.
And to be able to fix those problems.
Unfortunately, we have to find the money to fix the other problem.
We have to find the money to be able to fix those problems.
And, it was brought up, we have there's a high quality education here, but there will be teacher burnout come 30 children in a classroom year after year after year. And it doesn't only impact the teachers, but it also impacts the children. And I know everyone knows this in here, and that's why everyone's here, but I'm glad that that topic is coming up and it's going to be brought up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have another question, and I'll keep this brief, but, and I know I've had an opportunity to kind of go through the budget. Thank you, Mr. Himmelberger, for providing that information, and but you know, with these types of class sizes, which obviously scare me, especially on the elementary level, has any thought been given to the following? Some school districts have opted to go to cleaning services and have eliminated custodians. Now, I probably just made a lot of friends with that comment, but this is kind of seems to be a crisis mode when you're having 28 or 29 kids in a classroom. Has any thoughts been there? The other thing is, a couple of years back, the regional realignment failed, and that, I'm sure, has contributed to some of this discussion. Has any thoughts been put forth about modifying the regional agreement on a temporary basis, whereas you could perhaps consolidate some of your classes into, say, one building or two buildings? And there is precedence for that, okay? In the 90s, early 90s, because of financial conditions, the district school committee at the time closed the Main Street School, the former Blackstone High School where the library stands now. And what it did was it incorporated the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders from Millville into the brand-new A.F. Maloney School, okay, which was probably had been open a year or two, so we were probably talking 89 or 90. Likewise, about 6 or 7 years later, when Blackstone's Elementary was having a population surge, the bridge strategy before this building came online was to move some Blackstone Elementary students, primarily folks that lived in Lincoln Street, Main Street, and so forth, to Millville for, I think, 2 or 3 years. So there's precedence. Now, if you look at the regional agreement, you will see amendments in that time period, and there were allotments of time. So I would think that potentially, you know, there's some movement there, or you probably would have an opportunity at least to present that to the voters, especially if it meant, you know, class sizes, which to me is of great concern. Seeing the numbers and being you know, so much inclusion today. The other thing is, you know, I'm told, or I hear that I actually saw it a couple times, and maybe I don't know if this is appropriate to bring this up, but I noticed that is there a sewage problem at John F. Kennedy?
There is a problem that's being corrected. Yes.
What's the problem? Is it pumps out of service?
Pumps aren't working properly.
I guess I'd want to know why those pumps were allowed to not be fixed.
They are being fixed. As a matter of fact, they're doing the work, I believe, next week.
Okay, that concerns me. As well as, I mean, that's a 50-plus-year-old building. High school's almost 50. And I know we don't like to spend money on maintenance, but we have to protect the children from illness, from disease, and it was kind of frightening when I saw them there one very cold morning at around 8 o'clock. It kind of leaves a nice odor in the air for the arriving teachers and children. But when it was there 2 or 3 more times, I was kind of concerned. So that's being addressed. Mm-hmm. And have we left any money in the budget for maintenance? I believe, is there a high school issue as well?
Nope, no high school issue. The amount of funding to fix the Kennedy Maloney issue is being picked up by the town of Blackstone as a capital expense.
Okay. So it's in excess of $15,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the region? What about the high school? Is there an issue in the high school?
There is no issue at the high school.
That's the fire alarm.
The fire alarms.
The fire alarm.
The fire panel.
System, which I believe was voted on last night.
Correct.
Yep.
And at the Millville meeting.
And has been approved by Millville.
And Millville passed it as well. Okay. Are there any other issues of concern?
No, if they are, we'll address them as we do our budget, but we're going to get back to our budget. Mr.
Okay, but
Buckley.
you know, point, and I've been in this position, not to this level, but the deal is you got to keep teachers in front of kids. So if the Chromebooks have to take a break, I certainly understand the technology and so forth, but we have to keep teachers in front of kids. Thank you.
Anyone else here?
So, could we do just 6th grade?
Yeah, I find it pretty ironic that Mr. Buckley gets up here, talks about sickness and illness, but yet wants to go to a cleaning service. Do you really think you're going to get that good of a thorough cleaning?
You have to explore everything, Scott. I'm not in favor of it, but I know other school districts that have had to go there in order to save money. And this is no offense to the fine staff we have here and so forth, but I'm just looking at all the alternatives.
Well, the staff did take a 3 custodian cut last year. I believe they looked into it because they asked for the square footage of every building, and they looked into groundskeeping as far as I'm concerned, landscaping. I don't think it's feasible.
I can weigh in. Just a quick comment to Mike's concern on looking at that as an option. I have seen towns where they did that when they opened a new building, so it was outside of the current contract. They added the staffing to that new building. The short-term and long-term was not good in terms of, as Scott alluded to, the overall quality of the job, the oversee of the third-party manager, and so in 2 towns that I'm very familiar with, it did not work out and went back to their own
Yeah, and I can also
staff.
tell you what towns that have been very successful, but they've
Yes,
stayed
I'm
on.
gonna stop that because we are on a Chromebook motion.
I
So-
just want to say that I agree with keeping teachers first and trying to keep class sizes lower rather than implementing Chromebooks at the middle school at this time.
I would like to offer a compromise.
Okay.
Could we roll out the Chromebooks to the 6th grade so that they roll up this year, and then 8th grade is going to move up into the high school, so they would roll into the Chromebook system anyway, and then, and then eventually we could catch up with ourselves. But I think to your point, Jane, that I've been on almost every school improvement team that has implemented the initiative of Chromebooks. We do need a 21st century education. Contrary to some people's belief, the reality is that when we're taking these standardized tests, everybody's worried about test scores and about students being able to show what they know. If they are never in front of a Chromebook until the day they take MCAS, the chances of them being able to navigate are right off the bat is going to hurt them and the numbers that roll out. And at the end of the day, that ends up wrongly in many cases reflecting on teachers. So we do need to get them in front of the Chromebooks. I'm proposing that maybe we roll it out to 6th grade.
Or just
Move
one
the-
grade. I don't know if it would make more sense for the
Move
6th or
the-
the 8th, but 1 grade instead of all 3.
One grade
Would
instead
that
of all
change the
3,
terms
and we
of the
can.
lease?
And then,
We'll have to check.
as far as the positions, cut the full-time new position, but keep the 0.4, 0.3 additional time for the person already here in. So sort of still cutting costs, but still moving our school improvement goal forward.
I know I already said this last week, but I'm going to say it again while we're having discussion on the motion. Why would we be afraid to ask parents to make this purchase? They pay $200 per sport, per band event as a user fee, and they get a few months out of it. They're going to make this purchase as a one-time purchase. Yes, will they have to replace it before high school? What are we going to be using when they hit 9th and 10th grade?
I don't think
We can't ask the parents to pay for a salary. We can't ask the parents to pay for a line item, but we can ask them to purchase a device.
But I think legally that we cannot ask. I think we can do bring your own device. All these kids have devices at
And offer
homes.
the purchase, the discount purchase.
Right, we can give them like 2 or 3 options. Or, legally, I know.
That article was from 2014.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen, I didn't have time today to see what the outcome of it was. They must have one by now. That's 4 years ago that it was brought against Mendon Upton. But for an iPad too. So I'm sure they're not even using them anymore.
Right.
The iPads are probably not a device that the schools are using, which is to my point of making the purchase now, and do they break them? Do they not work? They don't, it's not an actual laptop. It's not, they're not going to run out of memory. And it works in our classrooms right now because we are a Google Classroom, Google School. But again, we cannot ask the parents to fund a teacher's salary. We can't ask them to fund the other line items, but we can put this out there and still possibly meet some of our goals, our technology goals, by asking them, to supply one or purchase it through us, and hopefully reach the same.
We are essentially asking them to pay for a teacher, though.
Yes,
if we're having them
But
pay
we
for the
can't.
Chromebook
But we
so that we
can't
can
do
move
that.
the
We
money.
can do this, just like we take user fees.
It's not the
and
same.
put it towards the sport and towards the band. They are funding that specific item.
That's a choice.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
a choice.
We-
Unfortunately, it's curriculum driven.
I recognize this.
Oh, sorry.
Respectfully, you said show what you know. The kids can't show what they know from a Chromebook. They show what they know from the teachers teaching them the curriculum. So to say that a Chromebook is going to solve that or show that is ludicrous in my mind. Like, they learn from the teachers. They learn strategies, they practice in class, and then they use that device or they use that paper to show what they know. It's not the device, it's not the paper, it's the teachers.
I think my point was they have to know how to use the device to answer the question correctly, not that, I'm a teacher, I'm right with you.
Right, I understand, that's a technology class. That's not having the Chromebooks in front of them all day long. They can't have, just because they have a one-on-one Chromebook, doesn't mean they're able to do that. They have to learn from the teachers, and when you cut teachers, you cut that knowledge. Like, bottom line. So, and the other thing is, we have a fantastic EFO group who I know wanted to do something and was told because of some kind of technicality they couldn't with Chromebooks last year. And it frustrates me to hear that they were turned down, but yet now it's a problem. So they offered it, and there was some technicality, and I can understand that. But where was the creative thinking then? That's what frustrates me as a teacher, sitting in front of these kids and thinking now we're going to have 30 in a class and we're worried about Chromebooks.
Sarah, were you going to say something? Yes, okay, hold on. I see everybody's hands, I really do. But other people were here. Okay, Tanya?
I just had an answer to you for Mr. Golden.
Okay. Yeah, hold that answer. While we're waiting for microphones, please forgive me that I don't know everybody's name, so if I say things like lady in yellow, it's not intended to be anything other than I apologize for not yet knowing your name.
Sean texted me and said, your question was, because I texted him and said, you want to know about the finance rating? And he said it would go from 1.5 to 3, most likely, and the minimum financing is $25,000.
We can't read it.
The minimum financing for Chromebooks is $25,000.
And it
what
would
would go from 1 to 3?
The percentage of what the cost is, from 1.5 to 3.
That makes sense. We have a cart of 64 on a lease for $5,000. So I don't know. I don't know.
Could be rolling
you would
it all
think
in together.
64 times 2 would cover the 6th grade class, right? That would be
150.
10,000.
101.
It would be 2 of these.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you what he said.
Thank you.
Was she saying it wasn't cost effective? Is that what she was saying? To drop it down to 1 grade?
So if we take out the Chromebooks, we won't save 28,000 because the interest rate will go up, and we
On
may
the
not have
existing,
any
it would be about
Chromebooks.
10, they'd be more than, because of the different rates.
Hi, my name is Kristen Breyer. I actually recently just moved to Millville, and my children will be attending the schools next year. So I wanted to come and understand exactly what was going on with the town. Although I think it's a good idea. There's tons of ideas that people are having right now regarding Chromebooks. The only thing I would want to say that you may want to think of when you're asking parents to purchase the Chromebook is then you're limited to the restrictions that you as a school can put on the Chromebooks. So what the kids are looking at in class, the parents may say, well, I let Johnny look at that. Like, it's not a problem. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, right now, I'm from West Warwick, so right now when they get those Chromebooks, I have to sign all this information saying that the Chromebook is constantly monitored, that if anything is damaged, I need to replace it. What if somebody steals a Chromebook? What if somebody throws somebody else's backpack and they had the Chromebook in it? Who's responsible for it? Now parents are going to be coming to the school. I'm just saying those are things that you may want to think about, as even though it's a good idea to ask parents, and you're absolutely right, I've paid tons of money for softball, and I would have no problem getting my kid a Chromebook. I just think those are some of the issues that that may arise when you're asking a parent to supply those types of devices. So you may just want to like think about that if and when that's something that you choose to do. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
And I'll go back to the comment that I made when we discussed this last week. I am tremendously concerned when we put that onto the backs of the parents, and it's something that is used regularly in a classroom that I can't afford to give my child. And so right from the get-go, I'm at a disadvantage. And so I'm not saying that means we should pay, if the group's decision is that that's something we remove, then I think we remove it. But I think to say now parents are responsible for purchasing is a burden we're putting on a lot of people in this community. And if we've looked at our community is getting poorer, it's not getting wealthier. And while we have very wealthy pockets, perhaps, we have some very disadvantaged folks in our community, and I would hate to say that we now have a policy of bring your own, and oh well, if you don't have your own, we'll do the best to find you what we've got left on our carts or anything else. So I am absolutely not for a parent purchase program.
My motion is to remove them from our budget.
Understood.
And see where we go from there. Removing the $28,000 and the $40,000 position.
Understood.
Just one more, I just have a quick comment on that. So, I mean, if there's passion behind the kids having these Chromebooks, we could keep the $28,000 in there for the Chromebooks. But if we cut the tech, which is the $40,000, we can't support them. Is it worth taking that chance? And it plays out how it plays out next year. The kids have them, but the support team is going to be heavily burdened.
But we are increasing.
Right.
One position to full-time. It's a little bit.
Oh, no, Joe, there's one person behind, yeah. Lady in Black. Well, actually, we met last night.
Yes, we did. Got in your full story. My name is Lori Takalo. My youngest son is in grade 5, and his teacher this year, she went through donorschoose.org and raised money through the parents, through donations, and got 8 Chromebooks for her classroom. And unfortunately, she got laid off last week, and so did her team teacher. So, but thinking outside the box, she used donorschoose.org. So parents that could donated, and that's how she got 8 Chromebooks for her classroom. So.
How many did she get?
8.
8.
Yes.
Thank you.
And for me, that brings up an additional issue that has never existed. So she raised that money for that classroom. Should those Chromebooks stay in this district with that class, with those kids, or does that teacher then, because she did some paperwork, move to Warwick and tape those Chromebooks with her?
So that was
I don't know what her decision is, but that's a question
I asked
that
her
goes
that
out there.
question, and she said because it's donorchoose.org, it has to stay with the school.
Okay, I wasn't sure, because I know in the district I speak of, they don't allow us to do that just for that reason.
Yeah, but we're talking outside the box. She
Sure.
did something outside
Nope.
the box, and unfortunately,
Box is
she
good.
was one of the.
Thank you for that.
More outside, better. Sorry. You can't do it?
You can't do donors choose for teachers.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
True.
No. Identify?
Please.
Okay. Joe Frazier, a parent of Kylie Frazier, also known as Joe Q. I just messed that up, I'm sorry. Joe Q. Parent. That's all I'm going to say. Regarding the Chromebooks, do you guys have any type of discount scenario? I mean, all those things, all those avenues pursued. The reason why I'm saying is I don't think a Chromebook could ever replace a teacher. I know Chromebooks, and they certainly are not as smart as teachers. Point is that the costs of these things, is there any way to knock the costs down? That's what I'm asking. Are we looking at the costs the right way? Or are the costs just fixed, and we just have to stick to those costs? That's all I'm asking with that.
Thank you.
There's one more question,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. As far as that $40,000 position, someone volunteer for it.
It's throughout the school day, isn't it?
What?
Is it throughout the school day that they're working on them?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I would.
Because
Full-time
not,
volunteers in the school? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a volunteer issue.
I don't know.
Not to be tooting my own horn, I could do that job with my eyes closed, but sorry. Thank you.
I'd like to move the question.
Is that what we say here? I was
Yeah.
thinking that, Jack.
Okay. Motion to move the question. How technical do we want to be? Okay. There is a motion on the floor to remove the lease of Chromebooks of the $28,000 and to remove the position of tech support at $40,000, so $68,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Oh, we have nobody. 5-2. Somebody, can you take a note?
5. Yep.
It's recorded.
They're not pretty, but they're there.
So essentially, we just freed up that money to be able to.
So if we're making a list, we now have $68,000 on the list.
Are we keeping the Chromebooks, finding it another way, or we taking
We
out
just
of the
eliminated them
Chromebooks?
from the line items.
Okay. Because
So what does
we
that
are
increase the
able
lease?
to, right,
Not the cards.
increase the lease agreement, and also Tanya was able to find some textbooks through online, right? Alternatives. She was able to save us some money on textbooks.
Where are these two carts slated for? When?
What?
There's 64 Chromebooks on 2 carts.
That's Millville Elementary and the complex.
So maybe they need to be in the middle school for her textbook use. I'm just saying, we're going to have to be creative, and those are still in here. The only thing we eliminated was the 6th to 8th grade initiative.
Right. I'm just saying we may not save the whole 28,000.
Correct. Right. It may impact our current lease, and it may impact our technology
lines.
saving, or our textbook savings that we had planned to use textbooks on Chromebooks.
Right.
The elementary carts were included with the lease of all those others. So just so you know.
Okay.
So we may only have $10,000 lease agreement, so I don't know if we can have the lease for elementary school, or we have to purchase them.
Can you let us know?
I can let you know.
Okay. There might be another $10,000 savings then.
Okay. Back to our list.
Okay.
We're on the 2000s.
We are on the 2000s. Director, curriculum and special ed, principal's office, instruction classroom teachers, instruction specialist teachers, medical therapeutic services, teaching subs, instructional assistants. So, are there any of those 2,000 line items? The guidance, 2710 cuts the high school guidance position. But what else?
New school counselor position.
And that was going to be the dual certified person?
Correct.
Yes.
Just the one, though. But
And
what else?
we're not replacing retirement.
Okay.
So that would leave us with 2 guidance counselors at the high school.
Yes.
And do we still have a psychologist there, Alan?
Yes.
Do.
We do.
What does that leave us in the elementary level for our counselors?
For counselors at the elementary level, we have
We have one retiring. How are we replacing her?
the one in Millville will split time between Millville and JFK.
Can you both speak up? We can't hear you at all. So we're talking about guidance counselors. We're talking about guidance counselors in the high school. We had put in a new position. We have eliminated, one of the cuts includes eliminating that position. And then there is a retirement, and we will not replace the retirement. So the, is it called adjustment counselor? What's it called in the elementary school? The adjustment counselor at Millville would split her, it is a her,
Yes.
her time between Millville and JFK AFM. We're in the 2700s. That would be 2710.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else in the 2000s that anyone has questions on?
I don't know where this is because I'm looking at a different line item than when I originally looked at this, but there were stipends for 504 coordinators or something. Did anybody else flag those?
We had cut them last year.
I thought I saw them in
No, I
line
know,
items
but
at
they
some
are in
point.
here.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I did see them. And my question to that is, can they be cut as we have administrators in each building that I would assume are
Those are
qualified to be
contractual.
504?
Those are contractual stipends currently.
Contractual stipends. 504 coordinator stipends? Thank you.
Is that why the cut wasn't
Kathy?
placed this year?
Yes.
Yeah,
We cut them out, we have to put back.
we had to put them back.
Yeah.
Kathy's coming up, Mike, but then,
That's,
I apologize, we can't always hear you back there. Are you talking,
problem.
did you just go through all of the 2000s?
we are doing anything that is in 2000.
Am I understanding that 2330 is paraprofessionals, for lack of a better term? Unit C?
Instructional assistants.
And am I reading that correctly? That there are no cuts at that level?
Correct.
And I'm sorry, you said the guidance, you were cutting, what would that leave at each of the schools for guidance?
Okay, so there would be 2 people at the high school. There would be what at the middle school, Tanya? 2. Okay. And there would be a split person between JFK, AFM, and Millville.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't we have a one and a half? There's one
Yes.
full-time at the complex.
It would be 1.5 at the complex and 1.5 at Millville.
0.5, yeah.
2 for both, for all 3 schools.
So we're going down 0.5, but they had 2 full-time.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
No, the Millville,
Yeah, but
It's
so
being a
the
0.5.
full-time person left, retired, right?
and there's still one.
So, no, there's still a half of one, right?
No,
there's
still
There's
one.
still one?
Still one.
You had 2 full.
now we have
So you
one.
still have one, and you'll have one, so you'll have 1.5.
We're going from 2 right now.
To 1.5.
Right now, we have 1.5.
Yeah,
And then the other half, that person will be
at Millville.
Will go from 1 to a half.
Correct.
Correct.
The complex will
And that's adjustments, Counselor, for
1.5,
them?
yes. Yeah, yeah. Mr. Buckley?
We don't get an adjustment, Counselor, guys. It's just straight guidance.
In the, when talking about the 2000s, I think contractually, at least they're called out are department heads in the high school and perhaps team leads in the middle school.
Yep.
However, in the past, and I know Esther will correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, there has been times when we have not funded the department heads. So the departments pretty much ran without a department head. Now, I know that that's a hit, but we was just recalling some other times when we had to make those types of cuts. So what we did is that we just didn't fill them, therefore we didn't fund them. Along those same lines, there was a time not that long ago when there was only one principal in the complex and an assistant principal. We call Mr. Campbell's ended his career at the complex. He was the principal. Mr. Monroe served not only as the vice principal there, but also as the tech director. So I mean, I know that you presently have two there. I can also take you back a little bit farther, and this is, believe it or not, it wasn't the cave. It wasn't quite in the caveman age, but the principal in Millville, with a larger population than you have presently, also taught a couple of classes. That was also Mr. Campbell. In fact, he had a school split in two places. He had the Longfellow School and the Main Street School at that time. Mrs. Vanaco, you might have been in that class. But so I'm just saying that these are some of the issues that we were faced with that we had to do, and the enrollment was lower. It was higher than it is now.
And the instructional assistants, how many do we have? And there's
38, I thought?
38.
38, and none of those positions could be combined, or?
Almost all one-to-one, aren't they? Almost all one-to-one.
A fair amount.
Yeah.
Fair amount.
Okay.
I don't intend to go back and forth with people's comments, but I will say that the student in the classroom today and the requirements of a principal today are very different. And I know that it has been questioned often why we don't go back to the one principal and an assistant in JFK and AFM. And I will tell you that the two people who are there are handling issues that probably other people before them never had to handle. And so I think we need to address the elephant in the room, and that is the cuts by school in terms of the classroom sizes and teachers and where we go with that.
So the way that Millville Elementary is presented here, my question is what are we going to do with the little time that we have for the teachers that are going to be put into these situations of a split classroom to make sure they're ready for opening day in August? Because this is a scenario I don't think, as much as the regional agreement has been temporarily changed for kids to move, I don't think this is something this district has ever entertained or implemented before. So I'd like to know what we're preparing for those teachers to be able to have curriculum ready for a split 1-2 and a split 3-4, and what is that looking like? Because I was in a building the other day as a parent, and I was told that placements are already being done. So how are we doing that when with classrooms that look like this?
So I think the reason why most people are here is because of the class size and the configuration issues. and I was just checking with Mr. Buckley, because if there was any solution that makes perfect sense here, it would be to suspend, put on hold, call it whatever we want, get mutual agreement that to treat our schools equitably and fairly. We are one district. And so the simplest solution to what Erin is asking is to simply go to grade level configurations so that you can equitably divide the cohorts so that all three schools have the same, and all of our children have the same access, because you're right, Erin, that's a very challenging solution or alternative to expect a teacher to teach a split class.
With only 4 weeks left minimal here.
I agree. I'm
so if
agreeing
they're
with
going to
you.
visit a district that's already doing it, or what are we planning in this?
We haven't got all of that in place. But that's why I am saying, if we could ever put aside the parochial, for lack of a better term, us and them at the elementary level, we have outstanding staff. We have great teaching. We have great support. That's not the concern here. It's how do we stretch the dollar so that we give our students the best we can. And certainly, I remember the work that the committee did a year and a half ago to look at the regional agreement, that to be able to combine all of the students in grade 2 across the district in a building is something that I think we should try and revisit, because it provides a great solution with an impact still to the budget, but perhaps reduced, and everybody then would have the ability to teach all of grade 2 in one building and have the same class size.
So
and
do we have
that's what
time?
I think we all want.
Do we have time to do that right now?
So, so
Like
here's
like
the
tonight?
thing.
Yeah, tonight. Let's
So
make a
here's
plan.
the thing. So here's the thing. So
That's a better
when we studied the regional agreement, the most recent time, and I have heard things like the last regional agreement, let the school committee choose if and when, or flip the schools, whatever. I served on that committee. I wrote half of that report, and if that was what people believed the intention of that was, then that was completely sent out the wrong way and in the wrong format, because that came as a shock to me when it was reported to me at our last meeting. But I had thrown out the idea of just combining 3, 4, and 5, because if you remember, I said we could do the whoop whoop and just make the buses turn. And if you did that, you would have 6 sections of a 3rd grade class with 26 in a section, 5 sections of a 4th grade class with 25.8 in a section. And I don't know how you have a 0.8 student, but I'm just saying. And 5 sections of a 5th grade class with 26.6. But you would need 16 sections in order to do that. The current plan that we have in front of us calls for 15 sections. Doesn't do anything to K1 and 2. Because I believe when the regional agreement studied it, it was very difficult to get buses moving back and forth on the roads that we have in our communities.
Right.
What does that look like when we need, I actually want to ask Mike this question. When we need to change the regional agreement, it has to go to town meeting, correct? Yeah. Even if it's a budget issue in this manner?
Yeah, we found ourselves in the same situation in early 90s, and what it was, this was when probably in 89, 90, there was an economic downturn post Desert Storm, so 91. So we were faced with about probably a $300,000 or $400,000 shortfall. So we were able to just close Main Street, and we integrated those 4, 5, and 6ers into AFM, which was brand new. Now, understand you had this, I think, 21 21 full-size classrooms in AFM. At the time, there were 7 per grade level. At the time, there were 4, 5, 6. So we had to go to both towns, and the way it was structured was an amendment to the regional agreement voted on by the school committee that basically said for the next, say, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it happens to be, you would allow those grade levels to be commingled, so to speak, and it kind of spelled it all out. I think, I could probably find believe it or not, I could probably find the wording. This is probably in a town book. And so we went down and we sold it to the 2 towns that it was a temporary solution, and it was based upon financial needs. Now, I don't think anyone wants to rehash what happened a couple of years ago. I think we all want to move forward. And quite frankly, I mean, regardless of the cuts you make here tonight, the Millville situation still hasn't worked itself out until after their vote. And it makes sense, from a taxpayer's point of view, from a former member of the committee's point of view. And like I said, I don't really want to relitigate what we went through a couple of years ago. However, you need to get all the stakeholders involved. You need the FinComs in both towns to sit down with you. You need both boards of selectmen and say, look, this is a way for us to keep. I don't think anyone in the 2 towns wants to see 30 kids in a 3rd grade classroom. And quite frankly, the mixed age level, although I've seen it work very well in a neighboring town, but they don't do it any longer. But this is kind of an 11th hour thing to do, and if we're just doing it for money wise, I don't know how wise that is.
Well, and time wise, town meetings ended yesterday, and we need this to go into place for September 1st, essentially August. No, 20.
I mean you're up against it, and you're backing yourself into is it June 15th, the magic date as far as terminations or for reduction in forces and so forth. So I think, that is something you could run by there. But talk to legal counsel, and certainly I'd help you guys out or support you in any way I can to give you at least the avenue on what to do it. And it's been done. The precedence has been set. It was done twice. And once to help Millville out, once to help Blackstone out. Well, I think we'd be helping all the kids out at this one. But any questions along those lines?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to know if we had to go to town meeting.
You certainly have the time.
In the regional agreement, it states for a catastrophic. Yeah. We were wondering if budget would be
I have a question. Where did you guys find the savings from having the building closed down?
Well, that was the key. That was the key savings was that we moved. I don't know, 100 and some odd kids probably out of the AFM. So we saved, heating, electricity, not staff because the staff went with them.
Yeah.
And other incidental things of that nature.
Okay.
And then basically that building then reverted back to the town. We didn't use it after that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, let me just.
Come back.
No, you're good, Mike, thank you. Did you want to say something, Sarah? Okay, so, just for logistics, for the committee's perspective and anybody else who's listening, we approved a recertification of the budget, which will go back to Millville. So Millville will have to address that. Potentially one of the things that they would do is call a special town meeting. So there may be on the horizon a Millville special town meeting. There is a Blackstone special town meeting on July 27th. June 27th, sorry. And there is a meeting on May 5th. June 5th? Wow. Oh my God.
Seeing if I was paying attention.
You are paying attention, but I'm not. June 5th, next week. What day of the week is that? Tuesday. Of all the boards of selectmen of both towns, the finance committee members of both towns,
Department of Revenue.
Us, Department of Local Services, and the Department of Education. So there is a meeting. We'll have those people in a room. We can have that discussion if that's a direction that this group wants to go into. In terms of time and training, a multi-level classroom, that is definitely an issue. But in terms of trying to reconfigure bus routes, if we were to do all class sections,
they have a program for it.
We got some issues there too. What?
Delstone just uses a program for their bus routes.
Have it too.
Yeah, we have the
think-
same, they,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
we
that
would,
part's
in order
doable.
to see any, sorry,
Go ahead.
savings, we'd have to look at closing a building.
Which
would-
we can't.
Can't close the
Which we
building.
can't.
Would we be able to bring that up to the state?
We did.
Already did.
We did.
Oh. Okay.
We asked that question.
I know.
Yes
We
or
just
no?
keep hitting roadblocks.
We'll ask it again Tuesday.
Cecilia Doyle. With all due respect to Mike, Alan, everyone that has talked about the regionalization agreement, it just seems to me, having been in the district a long time, we've talked about this for years and years and years and have not gotten anywhere with an agreement. So to think that we could get there in 15 days, to me is ludicrous. And I believe, because I've been here a long time, way back when Blackstone and Millville went back and forth, Blackstone had to pay Millville for those students to go there. So is that just like a wash? Because that's still money being spent back and forth. It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't see how that could possibly happen in the next 15 days.
Just to quantify that, there was money changed hands between the two towns, except for the last year in Millville. Millville granted the request that the last batch of kids stayed there with no cost incurred. But those are political issues that you have to deal with. Some would think that maybe we've moved beyond that at this time. I would hope. But I'm an optimist. So.
Yeah, I guess so. May I ask? I sort of want to ask a question to the teachers here. So I reached out as soon as we got the proposal for the multi-grade classrooms to the listserv that we have for school committees to sort of see what other districts were doing that. I was less afraid of the multi-level classrooms than I was of the 30 in a one-grade classroom, because I thought for me, and I don't know if you agree, and that's sort of why I'm putting it out here, I saw the 1-2. If you strategically place your students in 1-2, I see that as an opportunity for the high achievers in 1, and you don't, I don't want whoever has that person that's going to be in the 1-2 second grade to feel bad, but there are high achievers and there are low achievers, however you want to politically correct want to say that. But if you put the high 1s and the lower 2s together, I think the standards are not so different that you could meet standards and sort of differentiate instruction just by the very simple fact these kids sat in your classroom. So for me, I'm looking at the Blackstone, the complex numbers, and I almost would like to see a 3-4 class to split the 30 and the 29, but I wasn't sure if teachers felt the same way, because the 30 scares me to death, no matter what grade you have. But if we could do a split class there, is a teacher willing to kind of get over the scariness of a split grade to reduce that number by a little bit? And sort of that's what I was thinking. And I did get some responses. So Sherborne has a 1-2 class and another 2-3 class. North Andover has split level classes. Ashland has had a multi-grade option for grades 2 through 5 called the Neighborhood, very popular. Cambridge has done multi-level classes. Holliston has a Montessori-based program. Ashland and also Salem. And many of these people who responded did say, hey, if you go this route, we'd be happy to connect you to who's doing it and kind of give each other some tips. But again, I'm not sure from teacher in this district's point of view if 30 is better or a 1, 2, 3, 4 is better. Oh, and I can't give permission.
Lady in green, gray. Today.
Yes, Renee Roussel, grade 5, AF Maloney. I just wanted to say there are concerns everywhere, and I understand 30 in a classroom is a lot, and to do a split, we can do it. We differentiate instruction every day. It's just a little bit more creative. One of my concerns, though, is at the lower elementary. When you're sitting with 28 kids in a classroom in grade 1, that's a lot. They're little, they need a lot of support, and that's to sit with 28 in front of you. And even if you look at second grade, those numbers are high at JFK. I just don't know if there's anything that we should look at there as well.
Lauren, then Kathy.
Lauren Carson, elementary music at the complex, K to 5. So just, I know in my room, it's a very open space, and I know when I have big classes, it's tough to fit those kids in there just in general. But then when I go into the classroom and I see how they fit with their desks, and then to add another, I think one of the classrooms I was in had 24 desks in it, and to think about adding another 4 desks, 5 desks on top of that, there's actually no room. It's a very tight fit. So when you're thinking about adding in the lower elementary, even in upper elementary, all those extra bodies in the classroom, it's tight. And you're taking away that opportunity to have those kids get up and move, to have room in the classroom for a teacher just to walk around and double check that the work is taking place. And it just takes away so much from the other kids.
Wait, don't get out. I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute.
Nope.
Oh, yeah. No, so if we have a reduced number of class sections, so we have less, what happens to your day?
I need 25 classes to be a full-time teacher, full-time specialist.
Okay. Kathy. I see you. I just want people who haven't spoken to have an opportunity.
Hi, Kathy Jones. I teach first grade at Millville, and frankly, I'm scared to death about a 1-2 classroom and a 3-4 classroom. Not only are you, and I agree, you would have to structure it so you'd have the higher first and the lower second, but then now you're labeling kids. Mm-hmm. And what happens when those kids move to third grade? Are they in the single third grade, or are they in the multi-age third, fourth grade, and what are they missing? As a teacher, teaching 2 separate curriculums is very scary. Teaching one and meeting all the benchmarks is a scary proposition. Teaching 2 separate grade levels at the same time with potentially no assistant, you're in there alone, I think that's, not that I think 30 in a classroom is right either, but.
So now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
So how do we balance, and this came from the executive board as well, how do we balance the very low numbers in Millville and very low classroom size and very high, how do we balance that? If we don't do combined classroom, then what's outside the box that lets us have fair between elementary level school kids?
I was on the regionalization committee with you, and I think that is the only way to fix the problem. And it makes me sad that people want to keep them separate. They're together in middle school. They're together with sports. You'd have an amazing resource combining all these teachers together. I mean, we chat on our own outside of the school day, and to have that available to us all the time would be amazing. And a huge cost savings, I would imagine. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Joe Frazier. Yeah, it's just me. I'm not going to say that other stuff. As far as the regionalization, I'm not afraid to say that I was on the second subcommittee. You know, I'm going to say is this. I'm a big fan of it, but I know why it can't work in 15 days. So I agree with everybody who thinks that we can't do it in 15 days. Just the logistics alone to try to get even the 2 towns together to agree and get the road issues. it's just not enough time. Now, if somehow we could get everybody together and basically accelerate this at rocket speed, then I would think that this would be the way to resolve your issue, meaning the issue with the Millville class sizes being too small and the Blackstone class sizes being too big. I really think that the concept of it is perfect. It's just the logistics of it is not.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I throw it back at the committee. How do we resolve that? If we don't have the blended classroom, what is our option for having equity in class sizes in the elementary level?
I think we have the equity class size in front of us, but nobody likes the numbers. But Alan, I don't know if you have any of your information with you. You said when you brought this to us, and at this point, you had researched the area for class size?
Yes.
And found that we were
Most of the districts around us and in our geographical area have higher class sizes than we have experienced over the last several years. However, they also have much higher salary structure as well. To look at, we've talked a lot about, thinking out of the box and looking at ways we can try and accomplish what we all want, which is to keep our educational system as good as it can be in tough times. We have everyone together that we've all talked about this coming Tuesday. And that's somewhat serendipitous because it wasn't planned to coincide with a budget conversation, but we have the powers that be from the state level, from DOR, from DLS, from DESE, and we have all town boards, members, and school committee all together next Tuesday. And so if there was ever a time to accelerate rational thinking and clear thought, that would be an interesting time to do it with everyone there. And I think, yes, that's a couple days away. However, that's June 5th. So that certainly is one option on the table to be able to look at that. Because I think we are all on the same page. Everyone out there, everyone watching at home, everyone up at this table. And Mr. Buckley articulated it very well. What can we do for our students? What can we do for our children? And so I think that's message is loud and clear. And so I would like us to be able to look at next Tuesday as and put some options on the table with some immediate feedback from the state.
Okay, I'm going to go here first.
My name is Melissa Novicki, and I met with you in the fall. And I'm just curious, did any of you volunteer in the classroom like I requested you to do?
I'm a teacher.
So am I. I'm a teacher.
But for the, did anybody volunteer in the classroom? You did.
Karen did. Karen is not here. You did.
I volunteered in the school, not in the class day.
Yeah.
And as do I.
All right. So we're making these decisions, and not all of you have attended the classroom the day and walked the steps of a teacher. And we have first and second and third graders, they're young. I'm not so sure if you would agree with me, but I think with today's generation, I think that it's high. The volume is high of kids that have disabilities, that are challenging. I think that the teachers today are walking a different platform than they were when my younger two went through, who are now 25 and 26 years old. And they went through this district with no issues whatsoever. It was strong. The foundation was good. And it's not what it is today. And it's in relation to a lot of things. We have different leaders in place. Finances are different now. Cost is different now. But I think it's a shame to let the teachers go and to not work really hard to keep them in place because they're going to be an asset to somebody else, and then our community misses that. Mrs. Scoville was handed a very challenging classroom, and she prevailed. She had a high volume of children that were very challenging. She had a high volume of children that presented to me when I volunteered in the classroom to have disabilities that required additional teaching. And she did it, she performed, she did it well. And I really would hope that, I understand that you're talking on budget and cutting this and cutting that, but it's not at the teachers. You cannot let the teachers go. And what's even more disturbing is there is some conversation in regards to, you know, a possible somebody staying on that has less time in than her, which I don't know who that individual is. I can't speak for that individual. But Mrs. Scoville had the credentials in place when she applied for the job and you hired her. So for
I'm going to ask that we not
okay.
mention staff names.
Okay.
Teacher names.
Well, I just think it's important that Mrs. Scoville, I mean, she was handed a very tough class, and I had hoped at some point that you would have went into her classroom to see what her daily struggles were. And I think that if you take that class size and put those children in a bigger classroom, it's catastrophic. You're setting the teacher up for failure, and you're setting the student up for failure. And the child's not going to thrive. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think if you can keep your teachers on, that really should be what it needs to be, and I'm sure that is what your focus is. But before you cut teachers, go to those classrooms and spend the day, spend a couple days. Don't just swing in and swing out and just see what they're, walk in their shoes. You know, I don't know what more to say, but I have 2 kids that went through this district and they performed well and they've done well as adults, and I see my little one struggling through this district. And maybe it's because the classroom sizes are too big as it is, which is what you don't want to hear. But if we make them any bigger, you're going to set our kids up to fail, and the teachers. So I'm in hopes that you can keep all of your staff on. And if you can, volunteer in the classroom to see what their challenges are. You might have a different light on where you can cut money and cut the funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a short follow-up, and I think Mrs. Novicki touched on it. We're talking about teachers, we're talking about all kinds of things, but the biggest thing we need to be talking about is the children. The children are the ones. They don't get another year. So a child that is in a class with 28 students and is kind of making it along, they don't get another year. I've been in the district long enough to see all of the things that have been cut over the years, the lack of support staff that we have, the not having Title I math support in elementary school, not having enough support to support those students that just need this little extra push to get them where you want them. They're not going to perform well on your Chromebook on any test if we continue to have class sizes large and not address those needs for these kids. They don't get this extra year unless we start retaining lots of children so they do get an extra year. But this is their year. This is their year in that grade. And we need to do everything we can. And I can speak for the teachers because I work with them. We've got the best teachers around, and we do everything we can for these students. But there's only so much that can come out of us anymore. When you start putting 28 and 30 children in a class, something's going to give. And unfortunately, what's going to give is these poor children.
What percent is our salary line? 68%.
60, benefits and salary are 75% of the budget, 3/4.
Yeah, so.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
We're all in agreement.
I don't think any of us up here disagree with anything that anyone has said. We're looking for creative solutions to try to solve some of the issues, which are, unfortunately, salaries are and benefits are 70-something% of our budget, and we have made tremendous cut to support services, and we have made cuts to extracurricular, and we can take them out. We can do that. We as a committee chose not to do that, because we truly believe that that's part of the education of our youth and commitment to our community. Our very motto is school and community in unity, and so our vision, and so, you know, that's a big part of it. And it's really, this is not an easy task to sit up here. It's not an easy task to sit up there, and it's definitely not an easy task to be in the classroom. But we have 22 million, we were hoping for 24, so we have $22 million, and we have to ask ourselves, what's the best way to spend that money? Not what's the best way to cut money, what's the best way to spend $22 million on our students, because that's our job, to educate them. So what's the best way to do it? And we're still on line 2000. Go for it.
Alan, and when, on February 27th, you sent us very preliminary numbers, but on this list, and you probably have dated other pages dated with non-discretionary increases, contractual, benefits, retirement, those are all the set increases. Does contractual sit at 609,000? Is that an accurate number since February?
Total contractual.
Without cut? Before all the cuts?
For the increase, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, so my next question is, what is in the contractual number of 609,000? Is that every contract we own, percent increase, steps and lanes, everything is under contractual, or is there something that isn't in there that's somewhere else? I know benefits are underneath it, so that's separate.
Right. That would be everything that the contract.
So is that
specify.
the increase on the stipend as well? Is that everything, when? You might know.
I believe so.
So what would our savings be to look at a freeze on something on that line?
Probably have to be more specific for that answer.
So if we looked at just the contractual increase and not steps and lanes, what would the savings be if we wanted to ask for a pay freeze on just the percent, not steps and lanes, or maybe or just stipends, or just, I mean, what part of that can we find a savings in? I'm sure this is unpopular, just as unpopular as asking school committee members to save $12,000 on a stipend, but it's something, I mean, that's our biggest number on this page, $609,000. When everyone's asking us to keep teachers in front of the students, we're not just talking about one teacher or three teachers. We're talking about 2 out of Millville, 5 out of the complex, 3 out of middle school. We haven't even gotten to middle school or the high school yet, and 2 out of the high school. We're not talking like we're going to save this one teacher. We're talking about double digits on teachers that we need to eliminate to meet a certain number. So what part of contractual could be looked at? Is my question.
Yeah, I think I would answer that simply by saying that was all collectively bargained under
right,
Mass
but
General
many
law.
times people ask for a freeze in a situation like this. It is collectively bargained,
and that would probably be best addressed in a collectively bargaining session. In terms of what the
is
dollar,
it something we should entertain as a
well,
committee?
the percent that's not my.
Well, I need to know what the savings would be.
Yeah.
I don't have a breakdown of what 609,000 equals.
Right.
So
each percentage.
Where are the salaries? Where are the stipends?
The majority of that is salary increases. There's a small percentage of that is stipend increases. There's a small percentage of that is contractual, i.e., course reimbursement and other contracted concerns. But I think, to have that discussion would certainly require, my recommendation would be to require a bargaining session.
So as a committee member, I would like to see in front of me how this number breaks out, so we know if it's worth that conversation.
We could get that for you.
Instead of it chunked together. It's a big number. It's $609,000. It's, where can we find anything at this point to look at what's in front of us. Yes.
You may.
Approach the bench.
No, I'm not wanting to bargain anything right
No,
now.
I'm not bargaining. Esther Cody, 44 Summer Street, first grade teacher and union president. I know it's a big number, the contractual increases, but we did bargain our contracts in good faith. I've said this a million times. I've said it to Superintendent Himmelberger. It's my job as a taxpayer to support the budget and to fund the budget. It's not my job as a teacher to fund the budget.
Balance it.
Or to balance it. And it brings us back to other line items. We're talking about kids. We're talking about teachers. And excuse me, administrators, I don't mean any disrespect, but you didn't want to cut one administrator. That bothers me. You wanted Dr. DeFalco to have all the support that he needed to do his job. The same holds true for the teachers. You're putting 28, 30 kids in a classroom with no support. I mean, I'm looking at 28 children to start the year next year with no support. So it's collective. No one has any support. Jason won't have any support. We won't have any support. The children won't have any support. So if we're going to talk about contractual issues, we need to put everything on the table, not just the teachers' raises or the administrators' raises or Unit C or B raises. We need to put everything on the table. It's not fair to continue to come to the teachers and ask them to support or fund the budget or balance the budget. I can go on, but I mean, a lot's been said tonight, and everyone has a lot of good points, a lot of passion about this issue. It's going to be a long night. That's all I can say right now. But
sure.
No, it's
quarter of
not.
8, we haven't gotten through anything, but that's all I have to say.
Haven't gotten
Thank
anything.
you.
No, we saved $63,000, $68,000. 68.
Maybe.
Not quite.
Maybe.
That's going to go back.
Maybe.
40 for sure.
10.
40 for sure.
10.
No, 40 for sure.
I would just encourage you to please, every one of you, go to that classroom in the morning and spend the whole day and watch the teachers struggle with the children as they read the assignments on the board and how to spell this and how to read that and how to get through this and how to solve that math problem. And I think it's your responsibility as the committee to do that so you can see what the challenges are in the classroom before you can release any teachers. And I would appreciate that if you could do it. And I think it is your responsibility to do it, to see what the struggles are of your staff in those buildings before you cut positions and send teachers on their way. Because it is the student that we have to focus on.
But just so you know, not everything in front of us, we relied on the building administrators to bring to us. And they are the ones that are there every day, as we obviously cannot be. We would almost be an intrusion in that setting. But we did depend on them to bring us with what we have to work with. It's not what they want to happen, but we did depend on them to bring us these scenarios.
And I appreciate your passion, and I heard it before, and I think many of us did attempt to visit the schools and spend time in the schools. Many of us are also full-time employees and don't have the time during the day to spend a day in a classroom, but we have gone. We have spent time. I know that I personally had some focus groups with all teachers in all schools, was open to them and heard a lot of things and a lot of issues and spend some time listening that support's not there, that voices are not heard. So we have truly attempted to do our best, and we do. I will speak for everyone in this table. We take our responsibilities very, very seriously, and if you feel like you're not listened to or you're not heard, you know, we have meetings every other week, and we invite you to them, and we have forums at all of them. So we as human beings are doing the best that we can.
And I understand that. I thank you for your services on the committee, and I do recognize that you do have a full-time job, but you are on the committee for a reason, and maybe you can take a personal day to visit that classroom. I understand that you receive the data from your administrators, but your administrators aren't in those classrooms all day looking
The
at
building
data.
principals are the ones that brought this to us.
Did not create
The
this.
principals,
we
they're
didn't.
not in the classroom every day. I mean, I don't want to go back and forth as you don't, but they're not.
I just want to make sure you
in the
understand who I was referring to. I wasn't even referring to Ellen. I'm speaking of the principals that are here tonight because they're just as concerned.
And so, and I just want to point out that this is not easy for any of us. Almost every single person here has students in the district that all of these cuts are impacting as well. I spend every Monday, many of these people are probably thinking, she's a high school teacher. I actually now spend my day in an elementary school, in classrooms, behavioral classrooms. So I get what you're saying. But every line of this impacts a kid. It may, if we cut at the high school a certain degree, what happens is then students are going to, if we don't have athletics and band, I'm going to put that out there too, those kids are all school choicing out, and when they school choice out, that's less money for us to even have these conversations. So that's an additional teacher we're going to be talking about cutting. So this conversation is very hard for all of us. We've tried to reach out to teachers through focus groups. We've tried to reach out to teachers in other districts for more out-of-the-box thinking. And so everything we're discussing, we've tried our best to discuss more and more. The issue is when we go to the towns, and now we've been to both towns, and now we fought for an extra $100,000 last night that the Finance Committee gave us that the Board of Selectmen did not. Now we have to go back to Millville to get $38,000, which they've already said they don't have. So our budget that we presented, we would be having a lot less conversation, so we know what we needed, but unfortunately, we don't get the votes on the town floors to support what we actually need year in year, so we're here. And so we're going to try our best to make it least impactful, but unfortunately, as Ms. Reggio has pointed out, that $609,000 increase is part of the difficulty of getting these numbers passed on the floor because people have very strong opinions about teachers, and me being one of them, I'm part of that. And so it's a hard sell on a town floor. We tried our best this year to get what we could, and now we have to kind of go through and pick our poison of what we're going to cut. But part of it is what we cut today in some parts impacts what happens tomorrow. School choice is real at every single level in this district. So we know when we cut, we're going to pay for it later, and we're going to pay at Mendon Upton's price and everybody Uxbridge per pupil expense, all of which are higher than ours. So we're trying our best, and we understand that. You're speaking of one teacher. I bet every teacher in here has their stories about the student with a behavior problem or learning difficulty that makes it a challenge. So we get it. We all get it.
I'm advocating for all of the teachers.
No, I'm just saying
Alexis said, Mrs. Doyle,
Sure.
I volunteered in her classroom. She had a challenging classroom, especially with my daughter in it. So I'm speaking from the heart, and I'm speaking real. I'm only mentioning Mrs. Scoville just because I was found out that she was possibly receiving or did receive a layoff notification.
Okay.
I'll be very
That's the only reason why I'm speaking.
I want to be very clear on something.
Just to be clear, and Mrs. Cody knows exactly what I'm about to say, because we've had conversation. I must make those moves under Mass General Law by June 15th. But because of the size of the gap we are facing, we know that we are going to have some folks that will not be able to stay with us. So at the request of the union, I spoke to people last Thursday, but I told every single person that I met with that it was not a guarantee, that it did not look good, that there was a high probability, and that we would have further conversation. I also asked it to be kept confidential. That's a hard sell. So, as the superintendent, I have that authority. to transfer, to promote, to reduce, and I try to do it with respect and compassion for every single one of us. So, one, nobody was given a letter or a guarantee, and two, I did it at the request of fairness if folks did want to look, and I asked for it to respectfully be kept between us because we don't know how it's going to turn out until we finalize this discussion, and we have about 15 days to do that.
Well, my knowledge came from somebody that is close to the district, that's not employed in the district.
Well, that's...
And I placed a call out to Mrs. Scoville, who has not returned to my call, and I placed a call to Mr.
I just
Tringali.
wanted to be clear as to where I stand.
But I think it's important that you know
Okay.
that, that when I placed the call to Mr. Tringali, that's when I had
Okay.
the notification of it. And I'm advocating for all of the staff, it's not just one.
And I appreciate that, but I'm going to end that conversation. Thank you. All right, are there any other 2,000 area that people want to address, concern?
Can we be clear on what 2,000 is? So it's every building. So you're even talking supply, it says fine art, supplies, fine arts, high school.
So I'm not talking snow removal, I am not talking music stipend.
No, that's 4,000, that's 3,000.
Salaries, supplies, instructional materials.
The music stipend. I'm not talking any of the unemployment, health. I'm essentially talking.
So we have science PD, you said, on 2,000 is science PD. This is district-wide. Projector bulbs, smart boards, brain pop, IXL. Those are all 2,000. That's what you're speaking of.
Instructional software, yes.
Yeah. Most of that is. So does anybody have anything on those?
Isn't Mr. Dudek
Page
here?
19, yes.
He's at senior dinner tonight.
I know we spoke of virtual high school last week, and I still have it highlighted here. And my question is when did you there seemed to be some confusion on what was in here with our administrators last week at the table. They had said it was only half the seats, but there's 50 listed for each. So how many do we have total in the district?
Currently, we have 100.
We have
this
100
year,
seats.
but next year we budgeted for 50 seats.
Do you know how many were used this year? Does an administrator here happen to know that answer?
Tanya.
Just looking at this for $3,000, it seems to me that's we can't get any other activity for 50 kids for $3,000. So I know, I'm actually glad Mr. Buckley is here, because I do remember when this was brought in, he was on the committee and it was done so kids weren't sitting in study halls. So I just want to make sure where these kids are going.
$6,000 for both.
But you have each of them at 50 seats, so that's why I'm confused.
The students who do VMS, any study halls do not meet at that time anyways. So these students would not then go into a study hall. And then
where would they be?
With the new schedule that I have to do, I no longer have a teacher right now who can do the VMS at that discounted price. So unless another teacher had volunteered to do it that would fit that schedule, it would be an increased price.
So you're essentially offering to give it up because the teachers...
Well, your idea last week was that parents could pay for that. I don't see why we couldn't still offer that. I can certainly still offer, but it would have to be at parents' price. So whatever Mr. Dudek, because he is losing many electives now, whatever seats he wouldn't have, it's a first come, first serve when students hand those in. We could give up those seats that we do have extra, and then if parents still wanted it, I do have a staff who could oversee the kids working on the computer, but it would not be at that cheaper price.
Right.
So is it 50 seats for $3,000 when, or is it 6,000?
It's $7,500 for each school, is what I was told.
That's current price, right?
Correct.
But if you
But we were
reduce to
splitting
50,
it, so 25 seats
it's
us,
gonna
20, so that
increase.
it was shared in our budget
of 3 each.
It's higher than 3, I think.
Right.
The
It's a
3,000
split.
is
It
a
needs to be a
reduction.
split of
It's a reduction.
7,500.
So with 7,500, we reduced
So
to
that all of
3,000.
the money wasn't coming out of the middle school and it wasn't all going to the high school.
Did we get our question answered? So I think Mike said the only way you get the discount is if a teacher at BMR actually teaches one of the VHS classes, and that's where you get the savings.
And it's
Did we
it's not our students that they're teaching.
No, right, I understand that. But Mike, I thought there was a question as to whether there was a teacher section of, a teacher available that was trained to teach VHS.
He has one at the high school that's doing that.
He has one. The middle school does not have one. So that his one allows us the 50 discounted.
So that was
tickets, if you
okay.
will.
I thought
If
he
you
wasn't
will.
sure about it.
But
Okay.
To get additional discounted, we'd need another, and we do not have another.
Okay.
Correct.
Have you searched for another, or are you waiting for us to?
I can propose it, but I wasn't going to put a budget to you or to Mr. Himmelberger with.
Well, it would essentially be someone taking that teacher's place.
Because now I don't know how Mrs. Finnegan did it. I don't know if she was paid over the summer. I don't know how many hours that was.
And is
That
she
was
just
not-
choosing not to do it anymore? Is that
It
what's?
does not fit the schedule for her. Because I've had to reduce social studies.
Because we have a schedule now of reduced staff in the middle school.
And the training is over the summer, so you would have to find someone to commit over the summer. And again, I don't know if she was paid by the district and how much that was to do that training.
So again, my question is where are these kids going to be if they're
In
not?
GEM classes. GEM, it meets during when we have GEM, that other students are in Spanish 1. Looking that GEM, that it's 7th and 8th together, so that actually 7th graders can now participate in chorus. So they wouldn't be going into study hall. Study halls happen during D, E, and F. There would be some for grade 8 for study hall, but that's not when 8th graders are currently doing the VMS. They do it during H period.
At the high school, even though it's just going to be the same.
So if it's cut from middle school, it's cut from high school? Or would
No,
high
we're
school
sharing-
be
So
6,000?
it was split
sharing the
between the
cost.
two. It was,
Right now.
the cost was split between the two.
Right.
So instead of just flipping it over, the reduction was made in the two.
Right.
So where it was $7,500 each, it is now reduced each one by $3,000. So it's showing at,
So
what
it'd
would
be
be bid?
$4,500.
$4,500.
Because there was, I don't know exactly, but it was over 10, at least 10 seats that were not presently used at the high school this year.
So this is just showing a reduction. It's still going to be available.
Correct.
Correct.
It's just
25
instead of
seats
100.
each semester, fall
Right.
semester, spring semester.
on track.
And we would get ones depending, like I said, I don't know how many Mr. Dudek will need because cutting his English and his high school has cut a lot of electives. But we will put that in both our budgets to show that we're working together to save money and still keep the offers. Even with him only having that teacher, if the parents want to pay the higher price without the teacher,
Did we
that's
determine what
something
that
you want
higher
to
price
offer.
is?
It's determined by VHS, which I believe is 300.
300.
But I would have to reach out and find out.
Okay. Anything else in the middle school while we have Tanya sitting there? Forward.
Yeah, I thought, was there something about the special ed that changed from last week? I'm trying to find that.
I said that, so there was on the table an additional special ed teacher for next year.
Mhm.
But the classroom that I presently have that has taken up most of my time this year in helping de-escalate situations and being in the classroom is presently down to 1 student, who we are working on integrating fully so that the essential classrooms that I need will still be there for next year, but I'm not so much seeing a need for the social emotional room next year.
So you're reducing 3 special ed teachers?
No. I think that's
Am I
overall
reading?
for the district.
Oh, it's between you and high school, I'm sorry. It's the whole level.
I'm reducing one I never had. It was just a request at the
Okay.
beginning.
Dream.
I mean, if I have one teacher and one para for that room for the one student, that's pretty much a cost of an out-of-district placement, so there's no cost savings there.
Anyone else?
Jane, I've got to go. I got to pick somebody up at the train station,
Okay.
Lister. So
We still have, we're good.
I just have a quick question. So with the VHS, we're not actually losing the whole program.
No.
But things like, and maybe when you would know IXL or STARS or Discovery Ed renewal, are we losing those completely? Or are there any other things similar to VHS in the sense that we are going down to a partial subscription or a partial, or is, you know?
I've shared with elementary as well as what I know for the middle school, and there are comparable programs out there at free cost. There's a reading program that I just shared that my daughter uses in first grade called Teach Your Monster to Read, I believe. There's another one called Prodigy, but it's set up in a game format as well. That's free, and so I have shared those with the leadership team of some other ways to be using it. And those, I'm not sure about the Teach Your Monster that we would use that one in the middle school, but the Prodigy one goes K-8.
Thank you.
Just to the STARS point, because now STARS is out of this entirely at all levels.
Completely all grade levels.
We have asked for, but have not received, intervention data that the elementary and middle school has been taking throughout this school year. It is very important that we utilize the money that was already spent to get that data and be able to review it and see where that came from, because that is a program. I mean, I don't know how we're going to do response to intervention.
Well, so we really don't have response to intervention in the middle school. I mean, I'm using regular ed teachers, English teachers, math teachers, asking them to teach an intervention class, but that is not their specialty. I do not have a reading specialist. I don't.
Right. But we do at the elementary school.
Right.
That's
so I'm just
not
saying we
quite
have used that
the
to
right
place
way.
students into GEM classes.
Well, we have a person who is certified to be a reading specialist. Let me clarify that. You know, this has been my pet peeve since I've sat in this chair. But the point is, I hope that we have the STAR data. I don't want the program to be cut from the district and all that data to be gone with it. So whatever we can pull before the license unplugs would be valuable information. And, you know, I'm really sad about that.
Weren't you using that to place kids into the GEM classes?
Correct.
And so what will the strategy be?
To look for other free programs like the ones I've mentioned.
She talked about that last
Right.
time.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
So all of these interactive classroom, Brain Pop, IXL, Discovery Ed, K through 12, and STARS are cut completely?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
And these are used in all buildings at different capacities?
IXL has been here forever.
No.
If we had a curriculum director, these things would not be on this list.
So maybe we
someone would
lose
have
them
thought-
for 1 year and then we regroup. You know, I mean.
No, we'd have 3 more
curriculum.
teachers on the list.
Right.
And we can't, it's just, there's just
I
nothing
know.
there.
It's
But
terrible.
the IXL is something the kids use outside of the classroom.
Is that, I know we use that like as summer math too. Like, that's not what they proposed for summer math, right?
Well, the
Summer
Prodigy
package.
website that I told you about is used in and out. So I downloaded it on the iPad that my daughter can use at home and still do it. It tracks the data for the teacher still, even though she's using it on her home device because it's her username and login, as well as send me as a parent reports.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Renee?
Was there any other questions for middle school?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sixth grade wasn't touched because the larger student numbers coming in, correct? Oh,
So we already have a student population right now in 126 in sixth grade. Because we don't have a reading specialist for sixth grade and sixth grade only, 2 ELA teachers and 2 social studies teacher each teach a reading class. In order to make that all work, they already presently have 27, 28 students in a classroom.
For 6th grade.
For 6th grade. Our incoming class next year is 150 students. It is the largest out of the whole 3 grades.
Is that for every class in the middle school or just reading?
That's for every single class. The only time you see a decrease is if there's a special ed resource room and students are pulled for a room, so you may go into an English or a math class and you'll see they have lower, but the science and the social study do not.
But if you have 2 teachers and 4 teachers on each team and 8 teachers, how does that not help?
There's 6 teachers, actually.
So don't forget, in the middle school, we also have contractually, that is not at the high school and the elementary, that even if you do away with the team leaders, they still have to have team meetings, which are twice a week. So then that caps me on how many, where I can use teachers and how many, because every single teacher gets 2 team meetings.
Is that a full period?
Yes.
On top of their prep?
Yes.
How many 6th grade teachers are there? You just said
It's 6.
So there's not really fully 8 because Mrs. Dutka goes back and forth because part of her salary is Title I. Right. She helps with 2 classes, a 7th grade and a 6th grade for math intervention. So then the other 6th grade team picks up a class of math from the other side. So we don't presently have 2 full teams. There are 8 teachers on that floor, but one of the teachers is being used for something else.
But you do have 8 for next year.
No, Mrs. Dutka would still be doing what she's doing.
So you have 7?
Right, because part of her salary is paid for Title I funds, which are federal funds. So if I change that, then you now have to pay for it. And if we change that and we try to go back to it, then we would be supplanting our funds, and you no longer could do that with Title I. As soon as you make a change and you take something away and you prove you can do it with Title I funds, they don't let you have it back.
So how many teachers will you have for the 7th grade for next year?
Well, now it's getting a little tricky because now a team is being shared.
7-8, because you're sharing
Right.
7-8.
Right. So there will be a full team for 7th, a full team for 8th, and a full team that has 7th and 8th students, but they are not, we don't have to intermingle them.
So we're essentially losing a full team.
Correct.
Because
There
we're
will,
going to have
one whole floor on one whole side on one of our floors will be empty classrooms. And I was already asked, what would that look like to Dr. DeFalco when he comes? It is what it is. It's empty classrooms. We don't have students. We don't have staff to use those rooms. Could I make students go and staff have to go up and down to keep every single person separated? Well, sure, but that's just not logistically kind to make teachers do that, nor that just gives in middle school students places to say, well, I thought we had this room, that's why I'm late, and come up with excuses for being wandering around the building.
Right. Renee?
Just with the 100, I don't even know the exact number of 6th graders, 150, no, 150 divided by 7 is still 21 point something teachers just doing the same.
It doesn't work that way because I only have 4 sections of the content and a section of reading. So all those teachers are teaching 4 of their content and 1 of the reading. It's not being divided out by 5. That's why the class sizes end up being bigger.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are 3 positions being reduced from the middle school.
Yes, there
on
are.
this projection.
3 from the middle school and
2 from high
the
school.
high school. Anybody, anything else?
Page 19. What was Mike's take on the department heads? I know they've come in and out. I think last year they were out, but then they ended up back in during the process or something. I think when I was elected, you guys had taken them out, and then I think they ended up back in the budget somewhere. Oh, another contractual.
Well, not so much, because, I mean, yes, it's a stipend position. We can't have an administrator do it, but we can not fill the position. I think Mr. Buckley had already mentioned that. And to point out, I mean, not only does it save the stipend, it frees up an entire teaching period of each of these. So the electives that we're losing with the cuts could essentially be filled. There's 9. We'd have
In high
9.
school.
We'd have 9 high school teaching blocks that. So it's not the contractual. We cannot say someone else is doing the job, but we can say we're not funding those line items this year.
And above that, the team leaders, is that middle school team leaders?
Yes.
Yes.
Which we sort of don't really have full teams either at this point, so. And again, I know it's not ideal, but it's a
So that's
savings and it's
$40,000.
something we can do.
So what will be missing if there's not a department head?
Cohesion within a department. I mean, they have value. I'm not saying they don't have value. I don't, Mike's not here to kind of speak
So
what
if
happens
we're-
here, but.
If in their contract we're required to have a team
We're not
meetings.
required.
No.
It would be required no matter if I had team leaders or
right.
not.
We do have in their contract that they have so
Team
many
meetings.
times of team.
And the team
Not talking
leaders-
department
Oh,
head,
the
I'm talking team.
time
meetings.
allowed,
If
yes.
the time allowed, then they would sit in a room with nobody.
But the team leaders you can, and I apologize for not telling when, because I am going down to 5, so you can cut 1 stipend off of that. But they help manage the team meetings to make sure that they stay student and educationally focused. That's times that they use to meet with parents. That is all set up by the team leader. And so the team leader does do many, many things, as well as set up grade level, team level activities. And I only
The
have
time doesn't
one-
go away because that's contractual.
Correct.
So teachers could get together and have conversations, you just don't have a chief.
Right, and I wouldn't know how those conversations go. I can't be at every
couldn't direct
single
them.
team
You
meeting.
couldn't, and I
It
would think
tie
that
up
we have
3
professional
periods
people that
every
could
single
manage it.
day. I'm just speaking from being on a team where they took our team leaders away and what happened to the team and the team leader, and then you still end up having a teacher who steps up and does the team leader role because you have to or you can't function, and then you don't get the money for it.
And you said they meet twice a week at middle school?
Every team meets twice a week.
So it actually doesn't even free up the teaching blocks in middle school where it does in high school. I'd also think with the
And
increased
I don't know how
size of
many
the
department
teams,
meetings they have, but we do have in set schedules, 2 meetings, every team each week.
but I think the department heads are every day. They have an extra prep every day. Unlike team, I would be leery of removing team leaders when we're increasing the team sizes and the combination of grades, but
They do a lot, and we have 1 secretary for the whole building. So, I mean, it's not like I can ask the secretary to pick up some of the stuff that's going to be left behind.
So do we want to move to leave middle school alone, team leaders?
But we're
Reduce
cutting
department
1.
heads. Yep, you can adjust the budget to reduce the 1. But do we want to
how many were in here, do you know?
take out the department heads?
I'm sorry?
Do you know how many?
There's presently 6.
So going down to 5.
I'm just trying to figure out.
1,300.
Yeah, it's $1,500 a person for a whole year of running 2 team meetings a week. Plus, they do meet with me bi-weekly every morning, bi-weekly in the morning as well before start time for a half an hour.
So you're looking for a motion for the department heads?
All of the high school ones?
Yep.
It's $15,750 and
So
we're
we have-
losing 2 teachers, so that's adding 9
Teaching blocks
per week.
If Mike were here, he would articulate it.
I'm sorry?
She's talking to her.
No, it's team, it's the team leaders meeting.
Right, but is that during school hours?
They should not be.
It's from 6 or 7:30.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'm not gonna ask, you to be on the
Okay.
spot to talk about your.
I've had to stand up in front of a budget commission,
I don't
so.
think I don't think the group has put team leaders on the table. We are having the discussion of the department heads. I would think that if Mr. Dudek were here, he would say a very similar thing. That those are I mean, we don't have a curriculum director. Those are the people who are directing the curriculum in those departments and leading those meetings. And I mean, we have attempted to remove them. They always seem to come back based on need. And yes, we have many needs. I get it. And yes, there are professional people who would likely step up and take that role as well. But
We just have to look at this as 1 year. And we have, for the amount of times we have removed them, they've always come back. We've never lived without them.
Nope.
And if it has to be this year at 1.5 million, then it has to be this year.
So on our running total, we're adding $1,500
for the team.
For the one middle school.
One middle school.
Just
we're at
saying,
69.
every bit, we're getting every bit here. So,
I would be concerned with cutting department heads when we're already struggling in the area of curriculum.
Me too.
Yeah.
I just don't know what else we're gonna cut. That's our problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think my concern is we can defend every
Of course we can.
line item
Right.
of this budget. We really can. I mean,
It's
we
there 'cause
already
we need
know
it.
we're at
Yeah,
such bare
we've gone
bones
through
that
this.
we can defend every single line item.
So we
that's
have to
my
really
concern,
decide
but-
what the 1 year plan is. Because that's all we have to, we can only work with this year.
And is it contractual that we can't combine these line items? So in the high school I teach at, one department chair oversees
Several departments.
several foreign language, some things are combined where you have a STEM department leader versus, but again, I don't have the contract memorized, so.
Outlined in the contract.
Okay,
I believe as well.
just trying to find a compromise. Okay, all right,
Well,
I don't know.
does anybody want to put it on the floor?
I will make a motion that we are removing the 9 department heads at $15,750 for 1 year to meet our budget gap, freeing up 9 teaching blocks and the $15,750.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
I would just like to point out that freeing up 9 teaching blocks and cutting virtual school will be a compromise to keep kids out of study hall.
Okay.
Was
Was
this even put on the table earlier? I mean, we've gone through
It
the
was
big
last year. It is
this
something
year.
we have
I mean,
definitely
this
talked
year.
about.
No. Never been put before the principal of the high school.
Yeah, so this is.
And I feel badly that
Why-
he's
for
not
him.
here. So I don't know if we table it, but again, we still have $80,000 in addition to what we already have that we need to cut. And that's if we get the $40,000 from Millville, or 30, whatever, approximate.
We were at the target.
30, with
9. There's English, there's some on here that I'm a little. So in this budget,
What is
we have
it?
English, fine arts, technology, foreign language, guidance, math, science, social studies, student services, and wellness.
All right, in the contract, it has guidance, fine arts and technology combined. Maybe
Yes, nope, that is combined.
That's combined.
Combined.
Yep.
Student services, and then wellness. So there's 4 department clusters in the contract on page 26. I don't think you have the contract there. Teachers who serve as department heads for the so-called cluster departments, and then guidance includes guidance, adjustment counselors, and nurse. Finance and technology is music, art, industrial technology, computers, and business. Student services is special education, school psychologists, and wellness is PE, health, and consumer service.
Yeah.
There should be 4
Yeah.
cluster departments. Todd, do you have anything?
The only one I know is the department I'm in is music, art, graphics, video.
Yeah.
So you would be in finance and technology?
Yep.
So in the contract, there are 4, so I don't know.
So there's not English?
Which is curious, it doesn't have the
Science.
core content areas.
Yeah, I think.
Social
yeah, keep
studies.
going.
All the cores are in here.
I'm not seeing it in the, oh, wait a minute, teachers who serve
Yeah.
departments of their English, math, science, and social studies.
Yep.
And foreign languages.
Okay, yep, that
That's it.
covers us.
You got them all.
Thank you, Esther.
You got them. Motion on the floor.
I feel uncomfortable voting on this without talking to Mike.
You may motion to table.
Could we motion to table? I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
The in our contract does give you the prerogative to either add or delete, so I'm just
Not
letting
fund.
you know that.
Correct.
Yes.
Fund or not.
I would like to table it so we can speak, because we haven't spoken to Mike, and, again, I mean, I brought it up because we don't have many items that we can cut without all the, but, so I wish we could table it until we talk to Mike.
Is there a second to your table?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstention? What?
That was the vote to table.
That was the vote to table.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are on hold. All right.
Can I just make
You
it
may.
more clear?
Yes, you may.
I just wanted to give a point of clarification. So the cuts before you, totaling $1.515 million, are there with the anticipation of the $39,362 from Millville. So if that comes to pass, then we already have balanced the budget
Right. We don't have
to the
find
total.
anything else.
We certainly have the ability to adjust in and out, but we've already hit the number that we need to hit with the anticipation of Millville supporting that $39,000.
There will be no additional cuts for the 1.5.
Correct.
I asked that at the beginning of the meeting, and I asked if the 1.5 was what we're cutting it, if we did not get the money.
Then there would be an additional approximately $140,000 that we would have to find. But that is with the hope that there is enough.
So just so everyone knows, we as a committee had 2 pieces of paper in front of us. We had a piece of paper we received last week, and now we have a piece of paper that we received this evening, and they have different numbers?
Yes.
Yes, because we have a lower number based upon last night's vote.
Correct.
Anticipating that there will be enough folks in Millville to support.
The one we have from last week didn't total 1.5 million.
No,
It was higher, it was 1.65.
1.4.
Well, then,
Yeah, it saw
but then there was
200.
additional 200 that we hadn't
We
cut.
had to cut.
Right.
But now we have,
So this, we've made the cuts to get to the amount if Millville supports the 39,000. Obviously, if they don't, then we have an additional 140, give or take, that we would have to continue to find.
Are we moving on to 3,000?
yes, any other classroom, school issues that people want to bring to the table? We are going to move on to 3,000s, which is pupil transportation and music. I don't know why they're together, but they are.
It's other student services?
Student services would be transportation, and in our district, music and athletics.
So I want to correct the, I guess, the motion that made the assumption that athletics was already cut. So I don't know if And if anyone wants to be reminded of that, it was February 26th. And the motion that we came to, because the submitted budget for athletics was higher than this current school year ran on, and both athletics and music had been cut last year 20%. And they lived with those cuts through this school year. When the athletic director submitted her budget for this FY19, she had added her 20% back in. Music had not. So a motion was made that we were keeping athletics level funded to this school year for next year. So there was not a cut per se to athletics, and that they should be untouched right now. But what the motion that was made was they were already living with the 20% reduction in this school year's budget, and we were keeping them level funded. So we either need to keep music at their 20% cut from that they're living in this year, or make the appropriate athletic cuts to match. Because on this list, you just read it as music and transportation under 3,000. That's where athletics would fall as well. So I think they've already lived with cuts last year, and I don't think they should be deeper. And that's why we're only seeing music on here, and it's $20,000.
Well, that also includes the $6,000 for the start time change after school shuttle saving.
Correct.
So that it's not really $20,000, it's $14,000. We need to talk about that, right? Where are we?
So on this first page we got today, 3515, it says music is a reduction of $20,747.
Correct.
Yeah, but if you go to the other page and you look at 3515, start time change after school shuttle saving of $6,000, and then there are 3 music lines totaling roughly 15.
Are those
the same?
There's
also
today?
music on the middle school page as well.
Yeah, for $153.
$153. I
Yeah,
did
well.
see that. Every bit counts.
Every bit counts.
When the leadership team considered athletics and music, we didn't compare both programs. We just want to reduce the budget that least impact the student. And we had meetings with Mr. Schaefer many times. And,
So what was brought by athletics?
We also had meetings
So
with...
what did she bring to the
Okay,
table?
but I'm going to stop that, because we have never had a discussion that says if one gets cut, one gets cut. We've never had that
But Wen's
discussion.
answer last week when I asked that question was we already cut athletics. So that's why I'm trying to correct the intention of this motion is we did not. We level funded that line item to be the same as this school year. So I feel that music should be kept at the same number at that 20% reduction that they're already living within this year. But the perception last meeting was that we cut athletics, and we didn't.
3515.
So and my question is,
We did talk about how we
did she bring any reductions forward?
Yes,
Why aren't they on our sheets?
because you already cut the number many months ago.
As music was cut last year, so I feel like both.
But music
Student activities
for
should have been-
student, the music program doesn't get impacted.
The same number of students.
Yeah.
But we're talking about classes during the day too. The athletics budget is all extracurricular after school. You're reducing a music budget that impacts teaching and learning, as well as extracurricular activities.
No, I asked that last week. Those were
They're
separate.
separate.
They are separate.
Right, but when, did you
If
say
they're in
that the
teaching and
difference
learning,
is
they're in the
band?
2,000s. If they're in the extracurricular, they're in the 3,000s.
Yeah. Mr. Schaefer is here. He can certainly explain. I don't believe there's any impact to the delivery of music education, but Todd can certainly speak to that.
I will, Todd, but let Kathy go. Thank you.
Quick question. Somebody mentioned it, but there was no answer given. Start time change after school shuttle savings is listed under 3515, which is just the music. line item?
No, because Mr. Dudek explained that as a sports shuttle, so is it in the
But it would
wrong?
also help the music students coming up to the high school as well.
Do you want to explain what, do you want us to
I
explain what
guess
it is?
I'm confused. Does athletics have a different line item?
Yeah.
They're 35,
10.
10. Why is this being put against the music line item? If, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think any music is using an after-school shuttle. It's just
It may have
athletics.
been where it was put in originally into the budget. So
Okay.
in other words, that's where the shuttle is, so that's where the shuttle will come out of.
Comes out of. Okay, I understand that.
So, I mean, we can shift it to 3510 if.
It's actually to your
just-
benefit.
It's just what?
It's actually to
Well,
their
we need
benefit
to make sure
keep
that
it
it's
there.
not a $6,000 reduction to the music line when it wasn't even a music. But are we doing that? That is a
That is the
major
question.
change.
Yeah, that's a huge, that's not just
That's changing the start time of high school and middle school. It's flip-flopping them where
We have like a official discussion and motion.
start times and end times.
It's a big impact.
Yeah.
And my second question is, I agree with Erin. I thought the discussion had been to share the load of cuts between athletics and music. And it says actually up here, reduce cheerleading team in the notes on the side. And if they're reducing the cheerleading team, shouldn't there be a reduction to the athletic line?
Yep.
It's athletics.
What?
Cheerleading
But it's
is part of
cheerleading,
it.
right, cheerleading is not on this itemized list that you gave us. It wasn't on last week's either, and it still remains in the line items of the big book. And Mike said that was, it needed to be added to this, but it wasn't.
The winter one needed to be reduced, the fall one would stay.
I thought you said the fall, I wrote fall was cut.
I wrote fall was cut too.
And then which one's the competition? Winter?
Winter.
Okay, fall would be cut.
Fall, they, I guess,
Yeah, it
started
was
for
football.
football.
But I guess why isn't that a reduction on a line item if cheerleading is being cut?
It should be. It should be on this, and for some reason
We
it's
have
not.
many rounds of budget reduction, and this is just the last round, and we already cut our athletic budget.
We have not at this table.
So-
They were reduced
so-
20% last year.
So, in this large one, Wen?
This is the most updated one.
Correct. In this one, cheerleading still fall cheerleading still appears as a line.
Because if you can see, there's another item of budget reduction on March 6th
Yeah.
of $13,000.
Help me find it again. Was it
Not there.
100 and something?
94.
Well, 94 is where the fall cheerleading advisor for $2,450 is. There is a budget adjustment 2 lines above that for $13,727.99 on March 6th.
That is the reduction I'm talking about.
Okay, so the reduction is there, but cheerleading is 2 lines under it, which
Right,
makes
it
me
offsets
assume
each
that
other.
it's...
If I just have to change it. Like I have to find ways to reduce the supplies
Gotcha.
to make up that number. Transportation supplies and 2 positions. That's how we gonna meet that number.
But wouldn't that line item come out if that is the intent of Mike Dudek to not have fall cheerleading? Why would that stay in the line item?
Right, you're gonna delete both negative and positive. It's gonna offset each other.
So in other words, if you take out 2,400, you're changing the 13 to 11.
To 11, right.
So why are you running the music lines different than the athletics? Like the suggested cuts are subtracted from the actual line, whereas athletics, you just have the chunk in there, which brought you to the $180,000, which is what which is the number we wanted to stay at, that they're level funded for this year. So that 13,727 brought them to the $180,000, which is supposed to match this year's budget. And then their user fees are bringing them to $255,000 budget.
So I guess that's where you're losing me, Erin, is if we are keeping it the same as 18, that budget should only be
She didn't have user
119,000.
fees in there last year. That's why there was so much confusion with
Okay.
it.
If I could just
Music
say,
user fees is used in to offset the budget either.
music
Yes.
user fees.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
Offset the
they have
music.
user fee offset.
I see it there.
But the budget reductions are being it's not just budget adjustment of negative 13,727 on athletics. I mean, anyone looking at this would say, no, cheerleading's still in here. But if you look at music transportation, music supplies, and contract, the numbers are already subtracted from their line items.
I can work on the athletic budget and make it work, the number work. for
I
you.
would like to make sure that we keep music at the 20% that the reduction they already felt and lived with this year. So we're level funding them for next year, just as we did for athletics, which is our other extracurricular budget.
So the music line currently says for FY19, 87,000, it should be 95,000?
Is that something Mr. Schaefer could answer?
What?
Go ahead, Kathy.
May I ask?
Yeah,
one-
but let's, do you have a statement? or
Just
do you
a,
have-
just
Go
a
ahead.
statement. As I said
99.
last week, the kids come to the school for AP, for sports, for band, and for education. I get that. It's an awful job you guys have to cut this many people. I understand these are people's jobs, but I understand that my kids come to the school to be educated and love the band. So I want to fight for people's jobs, and I want to fight for my kids' band. So it's a very tough position. I really don't want your jobs. Thank you very much for what you do, but I just hope that everybody is considered the same and that athletics and band get the same cuts. Thank you. If you have to cut them.
Todd? Thank you.
So to answer your first question, Todd Schaefer, Director of Instrumental Music. The music supplies / contract, there's actually $500 coming out of instructional supplies, which is a 2410 account. So it's not listed as a 2410 account, but $500 out of that $1,600 is from instructional supplies, which go to in-school programs. Just to answer the question that was posed.
That's not on here twice, is it, Wen?
No.
Because we have 2410 lines.
So does that impact the student learning?
Yes, that pays for things that we use during the school day for our ensembles.
We
In
have-
our
we
meeting,
have a
I thought
lot
we
of
just spend the
24
money more efficiently.
I'm sorry?
We just spend the money more efficiently.
Well, I'm going to do my very best to spend it more efficiently.
That's
At the
our
same,
goal.
Right, at the same time, it does cut what we can possibly do with our ensembles.
Right,
which
same
is
as other instructional supplies in the middle school.
But that's
Other
that
departments.
is in 2410 though. You're saying it's in 3515?
Under our list, it says music supplies / and it's
Yeah, but
1,600.
that's 1,600, that's not 500.
He's saying it's 500 coming out of that, right?
Yeah, the 500 is included in that 1,600.
So 500 of that is instructional.
Yeah.
To the best of your ability, what is the budget you operated on out of the general fund this year? Not the BMMA, and I know there was a switch with your stipends being paid separately, but if we're trying to match up to our 20% reduction from last year,
Right.
we have a few numbers. I'm just going to give you, so on our paperwork, it shows that you operated at $95,759. That would be before user fees and I believe not the instructional stipends.
Okay.
You proposed a budget of $107,668. And it's reduced on our page to 87,421.
Okay.
87,421.
I guess
And then there's $26,000 of user fees that would be added to the 87,000, the way that it's calculated here, because it's built into your line item. I don't know what you had for last year for user fees.
Yeah, I guess when I sit down to look at it, obviously I have no control over the stipends because that's contractual. So what I do is I just take care of like transportation, supplies, those categories, and those that I take care of. Like I said, I don't know user fees. I don't know what comes in for user fees. I'm sure I could sit down and figure it out, but I don't have the information of free reduced lunch. So when I sit down and make my budget, it's about, I don't know the exact number, it's about 19,000 in the middle school, and I want to say 59 at the high school. So that's what I sit down and work with. And then obviously if I then have to go and make cuts, well then I will start looking at stipends as you see on here, and then supplies, transportation, and whatnot. So I guess I don't really know where the 95 came from, because I don't know what's involved with user fees.
Right.
I don't see that part of it. So
In here, we show 26,000 being allocated to you for next year. But the way our athletic motion ran was we made a motion to state what we were funding from the general fund. So user fees are above and beyond that. So my motion would be that we are funding the music budget at $95,759,000 from the general fund, as we already stated for athletics at $180,000. And then user fees are beyond that. That would put them at what they operated on this school year. So I made a motion to level fund music.
To the 95,759.
So what would that do to this
I don't know.
other?
I don't know.
I don't understand why it doesn't read the same as athletics.
It has to be a second before we discuss.
Level fund.
Has to be a second to have a discussion.
Second.
For a second.
A second.
Sorry.
I thought I did, but okay.
So at 8,000 back?
Pardon? All right, so.
8,000 back? So from this number to this number to this number.
So it's the 95,000, and then on top of it, the fees that they.
I don't know why we should.
There are
So
$26,000.
The budget last year for music, and we're talking music meaning extracurricular, 35-15 area, not music in the school, was 95,000.
759.
759. It currently stands at 87,421. So it would be a restoration of, I don't know, 8,000 something dollars. I'm not a math teacher. Kathy, what do we got there? Anyway, about $8,300 restored back. So it would be putting back the $153 music stipend.
No, I mean, I think we would leave that to Mr. Schaefer on working within the budget of this year. And then deciphering, but he has user fees on top of it, so.
Understood, but
But the three, so my question is on the, I don't know what we're calling it, but the cut list.
Yeah.
What's it called? On the high school page, there are.
The start time.
Under the start time, there are three music pieces. So is the.
Four, but okay. Including the start time.
Oh, and including the start time, but we're questioning if the start time actually belongs there, right? Because it
Correct,
benefits multiple situations.
It's not music.
So, my question is to Erin. So, if we restore to the 95,759 plus the $26,000 in user fees, that's what you're saying? So
Well,
how does that impact this document?
It leaves it to Mr. Schaefer to work within his $95,000 general fund budget.
It adds $8,000 back into
Right.
this. So it adds $8,000 back.
And then with
Because what
his-
is showing is, I keep losing my spot.
Because the
7,421.
It's 14,594.
And takes it back to 95,759. How's that $14,000? It's not.
It's not. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
go
going off of these lines. I'm just trying
Correct.
to make it equal to what we did to stop athletics from having.
Understood.
Athletics was held at a level funded budget, which they already lived within a 20% cut. So was music last year. We didn't cut teachers last year. The class sizes were not increased last year. These two departments lived with a 20% reduction on their line items, and I'm just holding them at that number. So I'm not restoring 14,594.
It's a difference of 8,000. 338.
But we need to make sure that the user fees are being dispersed the same way the athletic user fees are within the music budget. So that's why I want the motion to state that the same way we did it with the athletic. We are funding from the general fund $95,759 to the function 3515 music.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
95,759.
Yep, I got that part.
to music.
Yep.
So it's level funded from the previous year.
From the general fund.
So to our balance sheet that we're taking things off of, we would add
$337.99.
And what?
38.
$8,338. So we now have a negative, where we had some negatives, we now have a positive. Either way you look at it. However you do the integers, we're now into integers. There's a motion on the floor, it was seconded. Is there any other discussion? So, Todd, can I ask you, put you on the hot spot since
Sure.
I've put other people as well.
Sure.
So these recommendations came to us, the music stipend recommendation, the music transportation cut, the
Mhm.
music supply contract, which you say 500 is instructional.
Right.
They came to us from the leadership team, as recommended, to try to have some reductions. Were
Mhm.
you a part of that discussion?
I was.
And how do you feel about that?
I felt like I was doing my very best to help out the school community.
Do these match the numbers that you brought forward?
No. The transportation number is different. The transportation number I initially submitted in a meeting was 1,500. So that was a surprise to see 3,500.
Do you know anything about the $6,000 that's listed here?
I do not. We don't use a shuttle for any of our activities because all of our activities are later in the day.
Right. Mr. Dudek explained to us it was a sports shuttle, but I guess the confusion is it's on a music reduction. The
Yeah,
high school
I don't
kids,
know what that
no, the
was.
middle school kids get shuttled to the high school for
sports.
fall and spring sports.
Yes, yep.
After school, but not music.
No, we do all of ours after sports get over.
Tanya was on a meeting too.
Tanya?
Just to speak with that small adjustment in stipend.
Or the 153?
Not taking anything away, it's that I have two people that are performing concert band, and we don't have the wind ensemble, but the money didn't match up. So that's why it's, you see,
153, gotcha.
So how many kids on the school bus to what you said for concert?
I'm sorry?
Did we talk about that? So how many kids on the school bus
We
to
had
what
6
you
kids
said?
that went to Wachusett for a festival.
Right, and each trip cost us $800.
Okay.
And we talked about, if you
Yeah, we
remember,
talked
we
about
talked about
looking at a
how to
different way
use
around
our
that, yeah.
district van to reduce the cost.
We also need to do that for our tennis team and our cross-country team and our...
I don't think
That
they
also
fit
being
in the-
discussed,
I mean,
too.
how many seats are in a van?
Seven
Yeah,
passengers.
so you're not going to fit a whole tennis team on there. You're not going to fit any team for 7. Unless it's a track team that qualified for states or something, you might have a low number, but
Or we
there's
could
no
ask parents to
athletic
drive
team.
them,
That
as we
opens
did for
up,
our track team.
that
track
opens,
meet.
that opens a whole nother.
Using our van was $800 per trip or per person?
No, not using our van.
For the $800 is to use the school bus, the big school bus to transport 6 people, to what you said. So I'm just talking
We're
about,
also-
this is the road we go. We
Yeah.
just look at the ways to save money.
And if we look at
Without
the
the
actual...
Thing is, it wasn't a
student.
cut to a program.
No.
Correct.
It was a different way
Not at all.
of
Look at-
transporting.
right.
And it
Right.
comes, I mean, you can look at this and say it's a cut.
Can we ask the BMMA reps that are here how much money they spend on transportation for our band that isn't in this school budget? Do you happen to have that?
She gave it to us last week.
Give it to us last.
You gave it to us last week.
Actually, I have it right here.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Just for the sports that Mike had said when
They
we
didn't
had
put
this discussion about transportation,
Yep.
they are sharing with other towns
Mhm.
to move students.
Right.
So we can't always
Yeah.
use the van, but we are partnering up with area schools to transport the students and share the cost of transportation. That, athletics at the high school is already doing that.
Correct.
I want to really caution us
Airing.
that this is not athletics versus band.
Right.
This is not. This is looking at cost savings, and maybe we need to have the athletic director here and look, very closely at that budget as well. But this is not comparing one versus the other. If we do to one, we have to do to the other. There's nothing that says, nothing in our policies, nothing in our procedures that says we need to do that. We're asking people to think outside the box, and one of the outside of the boxes was, maybe we don't need a full bus to take 6 people. But maybe it won't always be 6 people. We don't know
Right,
that
yeah.
either.
It's
Could be
different
10, could be
right.
20.
It all depends on how many
Right.
are accepted, right?
Right.
May I ask a question about the use of the van, though?
Mm-hmm.
What does that require as far as who is licensed, allowed, insured to drive such a van?
We have a district driver, Kevin Fenney.
And what would, so I'm assuming nothing is simple, it's not an hour trip to go, right? It's like a day thing where you wait for
Well,
various
We're
people
lucky
to
that
do.
the one in question is after school.
Okay,
So there's 2 of them. There's a Wednesday and a Friday, and they're both after school gets out.
so what would the cost be to pay that person to bring those students, and then assuming he would have to stay there until the function is over so you could take them home?
Yeah, we pay overtime to Kevin, and we cost that specific trip. We'll save half, including all the gas and the overtime.
And I guess I'm concerned with the amount of work that leadership has put in talking about these cuts, and now we're going to vote based on this discussion to just overrule it
Good job.
without complete information. We're going to add numbers, we're going to look at the numbers and change them without looking at the programs completely. Like the whole time I've been saying this budget process, we should be talking about programs, class sizes, before we get to the numbers. And I know that we're here, but I feel like we're kind of flying blind when we just say, I want, like, the whole, 50 grand from this department. What is that going to turn into?
It's letting the leadership make the decision with the money that they have to work with. That's without micromanaging each line item. That's why I'm not saying I want to restore these 3 items. I'm making the same motion that was made for the other after-school activity budget line that we have, keeping them level funded for last year.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to level fund the music at $95,759. There was a second. Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Nay.
Nay.
things from here.
We are half an hour after what we said we would commit to. Should we pause and schedule another meeting?
Tuesday.
We'll all be together on Tuesday, and we can continue after, we can post to continue after that meeting is over.
I think that's a great idea.
That's a 5 or 5:30?
5 o'clock.
I think that's a good idea.
5 o'clock on the 5th.
I could make it for 5:30.
But that's only going to be less than an hour meeting, that first one.
No.
Is there anything really to
We have
discuss though on
4,000,
4,000?
5,000, 7,000, and 9,000.
All right, so we have a lot.
Oh,
Never
no,
mind.
7 to 9, I think. Oh, no.
4,000, 5,000.
And the five, Erin, is the insurance.
5 you can't do anything about, right? 5 is set.
And so is special ed. I think everything left is.
Special ed is pretty much set, except for the positions that we've already talked about
Wrap it up on Tuesday.
collapsing or moving or shifting.
After Tuesday?
Yeah.
Meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll, after that meeting ends, we will continue as a group. Is there a motion to do that?
Yes.
That's June 5th?
Tuesday.
We have a 5 o'clock meeting already scheduled? Or actually, it's here.
Towns do, yeah.
The towns have a meeting scheduled. We
Is there
have been
an
invited.
expected time on that one?
It's 5 o'clock.
What, how long?
Oh, 1 hour.
Yeah,
On June 5th?
June 5th.
yeah, that,
So
and
our
that's,
meeting will be 6
that was from the folks coming in.
Yes.
So
That
they'll
was
stick
giving
to
us
it.
1 hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll stick to
So
it.
what time are we meeting?
5
5
So we
o'clock.
would meet at 6:15?
Okay, so it's 5 to 6 that we're meeting with them,
Them.
and then
Yep.
we'd
We'd
stay
meet at
for
6:15.
6:15. Good.
Does that work?
Yep.
Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
And we are missing 2 people, but we have a quorum, so. All right. So.
Continuation of this meeting is next week on June 5th.
June 5th at 6:15.
Is that what you just said?
That's what I just proposed.
Can we change that? In my association meeting. At 6:15. We can do that.
Most of this is all done.
We, Esther, we're meeting with the towns. Oh, okay. I didn't know if you heard that part, because we're,
Is that a motion to
Please.
move, like
To make a
reconvene,
motion.
continue?
Yeah, to
Bethany.
adjourn and reconvene on June 5th at 6:15. I will entertain that motion.
motion. So moved.
Second.
And seconded by Aaron. So to adjourn for this evening and reconvene on June 5th at 6:15. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?